Chapter 1734. After Li Fan got off the horse, he walked to the edge of the cliff and directly jumped into the air, as if he did not care about the 100-meter gap at all. He actually jumped over. Good, I was just afraid you wouldn't come over. Sun Yao was overjoyed. As the saying goes, you don't take the right path to heaven, you barge into the doorless hell. The wall of the King's Road is a place where you, Li Dazhuang, will be buried. Release the crossbow bolts. Sun Yao waved his hand, and the surrounding soldiers all moved, controlling the crossbow bolts, shooting at Li Fan, who was in the air, one after another, nearly 2-meter-long bolts. If he was not careful, Li Fan's heart would be pierced by the crossbow bolts, and he would die on this wall of King's Road. But how could the great little overlord Li Fan be stumped by this little bit of suffering? His body somersaulted in the air and rose a little higher. Then, he continuously stepped on the incoming crossbow bolts with both feet. He actually used these crossbow bolts to quickly cross the 100-meter distance, arriving on top of the wall of King's Road. Quick! Release the bolts. Sun Yao said in his heart, not good. He subconsciously waved his hand, ordering the archers on the wall to release the bolts. Sun Yao's adjutant was also an archer. He was the first to react, drawing his bow, preparing to shoot at Li Fan. But Li Fan threw the great spear in his hand. With a bang, the great spear pierced through the adjutant's head, nailing him to the ground. Li Fan then arrived, both hands holding 2 sabers. He jumped on top of the wall. 1 saber for 1 guard, killing the guards on the wall until they wailed like ghosts and howled like wolves, throwing away their helmets and armor, fleeing in panic. Sun Yao was dumbfounded. He had been guarding the wall of King's Road for so many years, but this was the first time he saw such a ferocious person. He did not even have the standard of an exalted immortal. At this moment he was scared by the blood-stained Li Fan. He kept retreating. Where did the bravery of the past go? This brother planned to abandon his soldiers and escape from the other side of the wall. Where do you think you're going? Li Fan had already jumped up high, his body spun, waving the 2 sabers, slashing through Sun Yao's body. With a squelch, Sun Yao's armor and body were instantly cleaved in 2. Li Fan was like a wolf in a flock of sheep, killing to his heart's content on the city wall. No one could stop him. In a short while, the guards on the wall of King Road were all killed by him. Li Fan's golden armor was stained with blood. He looked like a ferocious ghost that had just crawled back from hell. He put away his great spear and walked to the front of the city gate. With 1 slash, he cut off the chain and let the ruby in. Just like that, the wall of King Road was conquered by Li Fan. The next stage was Rain City, which was adjacent to Frost City. The news of him breaking through the wall of King's Road had probably already reached Rain City. After the Rain King learned of this news, how would he welcome him? Li Fan thought of many ways, but when he arrived at Rain City, he found that the city gates were open, and there wasn't even a single guard, allowing Li Fan to enter the city. So that's how it is. Li Fan looked at the empty streets around him and seemed to have understood something. An exalted immortal might not be able to defeat him, but if Prince Cheng transferred the Rain King to his side, and the 2 of them joined forces to deal with him, they might have a chance. The entire army of Rain City should have been stationed in Frost City. That was good too. He could deal with them all at once, saving him trouble in the future. Along the way, his relationship with the first prince could be considered to have been completely severed. But it didn't matter. Even without the first prince, there was still the second prince to take over. The combat strength he displayed would definitely make the second prince very satisfied. Similarly, the first prince should be itching to kill him now. If an expert like him followed the second prince, it would be too much of a threat to the first prince's fight for the throne. Li Fan continued forward, safely passing through Rain City. Finally, before nightfall, he finally arrived at the city gates of Frost City. As the fief of the 3rd princess, the gates of Frost City were built low and small, only 3 to 4 meters tall. But at this moment, there were 2,000 soldiers stationed in front of the gates, as well as 200 cavalry and 30 dragon tiger riders. They seemed to be the elites sent by the first prince. The 3rd princess and the 3rd prince's dragon tiger riders were also among them. It seemed that in order to deal with him, the first prince had gone to great lengths. On top of the city gate tower, riding on a black tiger, wasn't that Prince Chang? To his left stood a young man in a blue robe. Judging from the emblem on his body, he should be the Rain King himself. And to his right stood a young man and a young woman. Although they were both wearing embroidered robes, the two of them had furrowed brows, seemingly unhappy. When she saw Li Fan walk valiantly to the front of the army alone, the young woman's eyes brightened, then darkened. Why is he here? For me, he would rather become a traitor. But how can he deal with so many people? Shuang, look at this. How can such a stupid man be worthy of you? Prince Chang pointed at Li Fan below and said to the princess, only this prince can be your son-in-law. Shut up. Qiu Shuang rebuked, he's a hero, how can a lowly person like you speak such nonsense? What's the use of admiring him so much? Prince Chang was unhappy and mocked, even if he's a hero, he's just a man and a horse, nothing more than the bravery of an ordinary man. This prince can command a vast army, but with a flick of my finger, he'll be beheaded. Words of a coward. Qiu Shuang retorted, in my heart, only he can be called a hero. If I were to marry, I should marry him. If he's dead, let's see how you're going to marry. Live and be a member of his Li clan. If he's dead, become a ghost of his Li clan. Stupid. You're hopelessly stupid. Prince Chang was about to explode in anger and could not help but curse, Qiu Shuang, if not for the fact that you're a princess, this prince would have already chopped off your head. What's the point of shouting? Qiu Shuang was not afraid at all, if you have the guts, do it. Royal sister, calm down, Qiu Nan was about to pee in his pants. He had never seen such a scene before. Don't be afraid, big sister will accompany you. Qiu Shuang reached out and patted her brother's head. Third princess, when you see this prince's methods, you'll naturally be convinced. Prince Chang did not dare to do anything to third princess. Before he ascended to the throne, third princess was his most important card. That first prince was dreaming if he thought that he could control him through his sister. How could he be satisfied with a mere son-in-law position? When he had the right to inherit the throne, heaven upon heavens would be surnamed Chang. General Li, long time no see. Thinking of this, Prince Chang's interest was piqued, and he said to Li Fan below. It's been a few months, how have you been? Li Fan held his spear and ignored Prince Chang. He stared at third princess and said, Third princess, wait for me. I'll come and save you immediately. Chapter 1735. Impudent fellow, how dare you ignore this king? King Chang was furious. He pointed at Li Fan and ordered his soldiers, kill him. Reward him with the position of general and 100,000 immortal crystals. With a great reward, there would be brave men, not to mention there were so many warriors here. However, Li Fan's expression did not change. He held his spear and laughed. Soldiers are brave, generals are brave. King Chang, do you think a shameless person like you can bring out an elite army? Watch me destroy your army. The 200 cavalrymen charged at Li Fan. These cavalrymen were equipped with spears. The spears were pointed at Li Fan, ready to poke him full of holes. Li Fan held his spear in one hand and held the reins with the other. Ruby immediately neighed and raised its front hooves high. The cloak behind Li Fan danced like a burning flame. Ha! When Li Fan's warhorse fell, he swept his spear horizontally. The air seemed to be split apart. A strong gust of wind immediately swept out, blowing the opposing cavalry into a complete mess. Li Fan took the opportunity to jump up. Holding his spear, he charged into the cavalry. With one spear strike, he knocked the cavalrymen off their horses and onto the ground. The 200 elite cavalrymen were no match for Li Fan. Very quickly, they began to retreat. Infantry, raise your spears and surround him. King Chang waved his hand. The surrounding infantry raised their spears and surrounded Li Fan in the center. In this way, Li Fan was trapped in the center and had no way to get out. Be good and wait for me here. Riding Ruby, there was no way he could fight these infantry. Li Fan patted its forehead again to comfort Ruby. Then, he stepped on the stirrup and jumped off the horse. Eat my spear. After Li Fan got off the horse, he seemed to be even more valiant. He waved his spear continuously, smashing the soldiers in front of him into pieces. Flesh and blood flew everywhere. Prince Chang, who was sitting on the black tiger, couldn't help but be a little dumbfounded when he saw this scene. What was going on? Why was he even more powerful without his warhorse? Pooh! Li Fan thrust his spear again, piercing through a centurion's shield and then piercing through his throat, sending him flying high into the air. The surrounding spearmen were finally afraid. They had no choice but to be afraid. This fellow was too strong. I can't beat him. There's no need to put your life on the line. Because they were fighting with their flesh and blood, the warriors of Sky Beyond Avalon finally began to retreat in the face of unstoppable death. They continuously retreated, avoiding Li Fan, not daring to approach him. Soon, a 10-meter vacuum was formed in front of Li Fan. He walked forward, and the soldiers retreated. King Chang was so angry that he almost vomited blood. A bunch of trash. Mount the tiger and meet the enemy. He could only use his last resort, Dragon Tiger Mount. The Dragon Tiger Mount had already received the Crown Prince's order to fully cooperate with King Chang's operation. However, the Dragon Tiger Mount had always been afraid of Li Fan. Could they really defeat this war god? Even the exalted immortals couldn't do anything to him. Just how strong was he? However, the combat power of 30 Dragon Tiger Mount could practically destroy an entire civilization. It should be possible to use it to deal with this traitor, right? At this moment, the 30 Dragon Tiger Mount were all donned in armor. These 30 were like tanks, stepping on waves of fire, charging out of the parted crowd and crushing towards Li Fan. Good. Li Fan gripped his spear tightly. Looking at this terrifying heavy cavalry, he was also thinking of a plan. His diamond body, it was probably time to properly test it out. Thinking of this, Li Fan held the 2-meter-long vermilion spear in his hand and stood in place, unmoving. The leading Dragon Tiger Mount had already rushed in front of Li Fan. He waved the crescent moon blade in his hand and heavily slashed down. Clang! The crescent moon blade was stuck on Li Fan's neck. It was as if it had hit steel, causing the Dragon Tiger Mount's hands to go numb. The crescent moon blade directly flew out of his hand. The Dragon Tiger Mount also slammed its head into Li Fan's body, but Li Fan was like a pillar, not moving at all. The Dragon Tiger Mount howled in pain. With a thud, its body immediately flipped over and fell unconscious behind Li Fan. Li Fan grabbed the Dragon Tiger Mount's tail and actually carried the huge Dragon Tiger Mount as if it was a sack and swung it. Bang! The few Dragon Tiger Mounts in front of him tilted and slid away. Another Dragon Tiger Mount charged towards Li Fan from the side. Li Fan blocked with one hand and with a thud, his arm shook. The Dragon Tiger Mount was a ferocious beast with a length of nearly 5 meters. The impact of its charge could be said to be destructive. However, it was blocked by Li Fan with one hand. The Dragon Tiger Mount on top could not withstand the inertia and fell down. With a sweep of Li Fan's spear, it was split into 2 halves. Li Fan once again thrusted the great spear in his hand. The spear tip immediately pierced through the Dragon Tiger Mount's eye. The Dragon Tiger Mount screamed in pain, but because its brain was smashed by Li Fan, the screams came to an abrupt stop. The other Dragon Tiger Mounts were a little afraid. If they could speak, they would definitely start muttering. Damn it, we are already fierce enough. I did not expect this brother to be even fiercer than them. Li Fan walked forward step by step. The Dragon Tiger Mounts followed the foot soldiers and retreated. The princess laughed happily, but Prince Chang's eyes turned red. Go! All of you go! Kill that lowly fellow! Li Fan suddenly threw the great spear in his hand. The cinnabar flowing fire turned into a red lightning and instantly arrived in front of Prince Chang. Prince Chang was alarmed. Fortunately, he was also a high immortal. He subconsciously tilted his head. Clang! The great spear pierced through a guard behind him. Then, the guard flew 7 to 8 meters away and was nailed to the ground behind the city wall. Prince Chang broke out in cold sweat. Just now, he seemed to have brushed shoulders with the god of death. Not good, the third princess jumped down. Quick, get the third princess back. Hearing his men's exclamations, Prince Chang retracted his gaze. When he looked again, Qiu Shuang had actually jumped down from the city wall. She looked at Li Fan, opened her arms and smiled. Li Fan stepped forward, caught the third princess, and held her in his arms. I said that I would go and get you. Why did you jump down? I missed you. The third princess hugged Li Fan's neck and leaned into his embrace. Indeed, this was the safest place. Idiot. Li Fan hugged the third princess, turned around and kicked the head of a soldier who was about to sneak an attack on him. Another soldier's spear stabbed into Li Fan's ribs. However, it was as if it had stabbed into an iron sheet. It could not pierce through at all. Li Fan smiled at the terrified soldier, then whipped his leg and broke his head. Chapter 1736. Whether Prince Chang wanted to admit it or not, Li Fan was powerful. Even without a weapon, he could still sweep across the battlefield. I don't believe it. Prince Chang roared. Suddenly, a group of blackheads rushed out from the surrounding forest. There were no less than 5,000 of them. Each of them was holding a katana in their hands. Without making a sound, they quickly surrounded Li Fan. These were the soldiers of the black camp trained by Prince Chang. Although it was only a part of his strength, it was still very shocking. These soldiers were all close to 3 meters tall, with fierce eyes. And they were all riding on a beast unique to human realm beyond heavens, Tempest Wolves. These Tempest Wolves were very fast, could carry a lot of gravity, and there were a lot of them. But because they were wild and hard to tame, they were not included in the taming plan. But unexpectedly, Prince Chang had secretly trained so many Tempest Wolves. Now that they all came out at once, it was very scary. Qiu Nan stood on top of the wall. His sister also jumped over the wall, leaving him alone. Looking at the wolf riders, he trembled in fear. Qiu Shuang leaned on Li Fan's arms, not afraid at all. Look, if you jump down yourself, what about the third prince? It's time for him to grow up. At this time, more than 5,000 wolf riders had already surrounded Li Fan and the others. Prince Chang put up a thumb and sneered. Traitor, do you see that? This is this king's strength. You are just a small obstacle on my path of ascension. Third princess, please be gentler. I can't breathe. No, I like it this way. Alright, but Li Fan only talked to Qiu Shuang in his arms. Prince Chang screamed. What a traitor! How dare you ignore me again and again? Black Camp Wolf Riders, listen to my command, kill this man, dead or alive. It's a bit tall, hold me tight. Li Fan, on the other hand, held onto the princess with one hand and stomped on the ground with both feet. In the blink of an eye, he had actually leaped over 100 meters into the air. His body hung upside down in the air as he stared at the massive wolf cavalry below. The nine-tailed divine fox's power immediately surged into Li Fan's palm and fused with his palm technique. Dragon King Seal, Amorous Fox. A nine-tailed fox vaguely appeared in the void. This kind of fox was common in the Green Mountains, so Li Fan was not afraid of exposing himself. At the same time, Li Fan struck the ground with his palm. With a rumble, a palm print about 100 meters in diameter appeared on the ground. The ground caved in, and in an instant, over 200 wolf cavalry soldiers were crushed into meat paste. Prince Chang was also scared out of his wits. What kind of kung fu was this? When had the realm beyond Avalon ever had such a powerful palm technique? Could it be that this Li Dazhuang had learned from the masters on Earth for a long time? Damn it, why did such a terrifying enemy appear out of nowhere? Li Fan hugged the third princess again and then descended from the sky. At the same time, his legs kicked out continuously. His body spun from time to time like a whirlwind, killing the surrounding wolf cavalry soldiers. His legs were sharper than any divine weapon or sharp blade. His speed was faster and fiercer than any mount. Prince Chang, let's attack together. The Rain King pulled out his sword and said to Prince Chang, who was already stunned. Yes. Prince Chang suddenly came to his senses. He was an exalted immortal after all. Together with the Rain King, with two exalted immortals attacking together, no matter how fierce that kid was, he would still be killed here. The two dukes roared and suddenly leaped more than 5 meters into the air. One held a large sword, the other a large ringed saber. A powerful pressure also spread out. The remaining wolf cavalry did not know fear at all. They only had one thought in mind, and that was to kill Li Fan. At this moment, an angry roar suddenly came from afar. All of you, stop! This angry roar was like a clap of thunder, so loud that everyone's ears hurt. Prince Chang knew that this was not good. He looked in the direction of the voice and immediately saw hundreds of sky cavalry riding on immortal cranes, surrounding a handsome man and flying towards him. The second prince's flying crane cavalry. This flying crane cavalry was a special force that the second prince had cultivated himself. Every cavalry soldier was equipped with a streaming fire seal. Apart from the conventional cold weapons, the realm beyond Avalon also had a unique offensive weapon, which was the seal that was infused with a large amount of immortal crystal energy. For example, the streaming fire seal could release a spell called Meteor Fire. However, this streaming fire seal was extremely costly, and ordinary dukes could not afford it. Even Prince Chang only had a divine thunder seal for himself, and he could not bear to use it. Only a rich and overbearing fellow like the second prince could afford to play like this. With so many flowing fire seals, if they were to be unleashed in the air at the same time, it was likely that his wolf cavalry would be burnt to a crisp, leaving not a single armor behind. I didn't know that your highness had arrived. Sorry for not coming out to greet you. A real man should know when to stretch and when to retreat. Prince Chang pulled the Rain King, and the two of them knelt on the ground and bowed to the sky. Li Fan was delighted. Very good, reinforcements had finally arrived. The second prince could not sit still anymore. Lord Prince Chang, you still know that I am the second prince. The second prince was riding on a 7-colored immortal crane. Dressed in white, he waved his folding fan, looking handsome and charming. I thought that you only have my brother in your heart. Both of you are the crown prince. Please do not make things difficult for me, your highness. Prince Chang was actually very dissatisfied, but at this moment, he had to admit defeat. If he had known, he would have brought all the archers. The second prince's flying crane cavalry was not enough. Unfortunately, man proposes, God disposes. I do not want to make things difficult for you, but you imprisoned my sister. What crime do you think you deserve? Your highness. The third princess and I have been engaged for hundreds of years. She is my fiancée. Now that I have received the first prince's permission, I have come to marry the third princess. How is this imprisonment? Your highness, please understand. Engagement? The second prince chuckled. Even if it is an engagement, if a member of the royal family is not willing, how does it count? Sister, are you willing to marry Lord Prince Chang? Of course not. The princess said without hesitation. You see, my sister is not willing, so you use a chicken feather as a token of authority. Are you prepared to abuse the children of the royal family? The celestial lord is asleep, and father is missing. Should the royal family be bullied like this? Your highness is too serious. I dare not. Prince Chang cupped his hands. But since the second prince thinks that I am guilty, then punish me. If the second prince got rid of Prince Chang here, not to mention whether he could do it, even if he did, his relationship with the first prince would deteriorate further. Although the two sides were in a standoff, it was not yet time to shed all pretense of cordiality. The second prince weighed the pros and cons and would not punish Prince Chang. But the second prince had come all the way here. If he let Prince Chang go so easily, he would definitely lose face. The scene was a little awkward. Chapter 1737. How could Li Fan not know what the second prince was thinking? Since the second prince was the only person he could rely on, he had to share some of his worries. Thus, Li Fan squeezed third princess's hand lightly. Third princess was also a smart person and immediately reacted. Imperial brother, no matter what, Prince Chang was once engaged to me. Although his actions were a little extreme, on account of the fact that he was a duke personally appointed by the celestial supremacy, we should give him a chance. Qiu Shuang said loudly. Fine. The second prince was happy. He nodded. My sister is well educated and magnanimous. She is truly a role model for the royal family. After praising his own people, he looked at Prince Chang. Prince Chang, you may leave, but you are not allowed to enter the Frost Land in this life. Farewell. Prince Chang had already lost his best chance. He was not stupid, so he led the Rain King and the remaining troops and started to retreat from the Frost Land. After he left, Li Fan strode in front of the second prince and knelt before him. Greetings, Your Highness. The second prince's rainbow crane had just landed. Seeing this scene, he hurried forward and helped Li Fan up. We will be a family from now on. Don't be so formal. Family? Li Fan was stunned. Qiu Shuang stood at the side, blushing and fiddling with the corner of her clothes. Her girlish demeanor made some of the soldiers dazed. At the same time, they secretly cursed themselves for not being a hero like General Li. If the princess looked at them one more time, they would be willing to shorten their lifespan by a few hundred years. Since you defeated Prince Chang, then according to the rules of the human realm beyond Avalon, from today onwards, you are my sister's husband. The second prince waved his fan and chuckled. However, if you are only a son-in-law, then it will be hard on you. How about this, you will immediately be appointed as the Great Marshal of the Imperial Army. You will be the commander of the Imperial Army and help me to quell the internal strife of the human realm beyond Avalon. Li Fan's expression froze. The real show was here. Follow me back to the Imperial capital. When we reach there, I will personally host your wedding with my sister. Qiu Shuang was secretly happy. However, according to Li Fan, things might not be that simple. In the end, Qiu Shuang had become a political sacrifice. The second prince planned to use her to tie him down. The eldest prince probably wanted to quickly snatch Qiu Shuang away to appease the powerful Prince Chang. As Li Fan thought of this, he cupped his hands in obeisance. Your Highness the second prince, the country is in danger. How can you care about your personal feelings? Why don't I ask the second prince to give me 100 horsemen? I will train in the Frost Lands for 2 months, and then I will be able to bring them quickly into the city. Qiu Shuang pouted. Was this fellow so unwilling to marry her? I believe you have the strength, but now is not the time. The second prince waved his hand. Moreover, we have more important things to do. I heard that father left a secret edict in the palace. Li Fan understood. So it was because of this. In heavens beyond, you could call yourself a king. As long as you had the strength of a heavenly immortal, the royal family would confer you the title of marquis and give you land. But if you wanted to become an emperor, it was impossible without an official title. Why? Because everything in heavens beyond depended on the Lord Celestial Prime. All the people worshipped the Lord Celestial Prime the most. Other than the Lord Celestial Prime, if anyone else wanted to become an emperor, they would never agree. Moreover, the Lord Celestial Prime might feel the change in his bloodline and wake up again to destroy the person who tried to overthrow the regime. If the old emperor left a secret edict, once it was announced, the whole country would support whoever the higher-ups decided to be the emperor. The two princes were not stupid. Although they wanted to become emperors, they did not want to become enemies of the country. Behind the eldest prince was Prince Feng, and behind the second prince was the Elders' Council. Right now, they were evenly matched. The secret edict was the deciding factor. They had to get the secret edict in their hands first. Li Fan finally understood why the eldest prince did not show up despite the intense battle. It turned out that he had gone to the capital first. The second prince had given him face by coming all the way here to look for him. I am extremely grateful that the second prince came to save me in such an emergency. Li Fan cupped his fists and the second prince nodded with a smile. You're too kind. It's what I should do. But since I've already picked you up, please follow me to the capital. General Li, me too. Me too. Qiu Shuang suddenly thought of her younger brother. She turned to look at Qiu Nan, who was still scared. You stay here. I'm afraid the capital will be very dangerous. Qiu Nan almost burst into tears. So his sister still cared about him. Thank you, royal sister. I'll stay here. Qiu Nan did not want to go to the capital to suffer. Right now, the capital was definitely in turmoil and danger. Then let the few of us go. It's better for royal brother to stay here. The second prince instructed. After all, Qiu Nan was a burden. It did not matter whether he went or not. It was better if he did not go. Generally, please take care of my sister. The second prince clapped his hands and a crane flew over. It flapped its wings and landed in front of them. The two of you can ride on this crane. We'll reach the capital in about 4 hours. Li Fan carried the little princess and rode on the immortal crane. The immortal crane let out a cry and flew up with its other companions, flying in the direction of the imperial capital. Staying in Li Fan's arms, the little princess was very comfortable. It was as if this was the happiest moment of her life. Husband. The way the little princess called Li Fan had changed. That. Your Highness, we're not married yet. It's not good to call you that. Li Fan was a little embarrassed. Anyway, the little princess blushed and said, I've already said that on the city wall. Don't you want me? That's not it. Li Fan didn't know what to say. Since the little princess had already said that to him, could he still refuse? Also, husband, you have to be careful of my second brother. The little princess suddenly lowered her voice and said to Li Fan, he didn't come to save you with good intentions. Since royal father is missing, the palace has been sealed. The one in charge of guarding the palace is the #1 expert of the royal family, Huang Taiji. He is guarding the palace. No matter if it's big brother or second brother, they can't do anything. So that's the case. But is it really good for you to betray your second brother? It was said that women were extroverted. Li Fan said that this was too fast. Since you're my husband, then my heart will naturally be on my husband's side. Qiu Shuang argued, what? Could it be that husband doesn't like this? Good, of course it's good. With you at home, I won't be afraid of being taken advantage of. What else could Li Fan say? He could only coax the little princess. When it was time for them to get married, he would think of a way to get it over with. The rainbow crane screeched. It seemed like they were nearing the capital. Chapter 1738. They had already arrived in the sky above the imperial capital. This was the imperial capital after all. The scale of this place was completely different from that of an ordinary vassal city. The entire imperial capital was made up of huge buildings, one after another, neatly arranged. At the center of the city was the imperial palace, with green tiles and red walls. The top of each building was carved with a divine dragon. The most eye-catching thing was a huge pagoda. The pagoda seemed to contain a terrifying creature. Li Fan could feel the terrifying aura emanating from it. These cranes also stopped moving forward, only lingering around the palace. Why aren't you going in? Li Fan subconsciously asked. The princess hurriedly covered Li Fan's mouth, then whispered in his ear. Shh, don't say it. This is a secret of the imperial family. There is a terrifying magical beast locked in the palace. Magical beast? What the hell is that? Li Fan did not understand, but Qiu Shuang was very patient. She stuck close to Li Fan's ear and explained. It's called a magical beast. In fact, when we first arrived here, we encountered a powerful existence that descended from another plane. According to him, he is a realm king. Realm king? What was that again? The more Li Fan listened, the more confused he became. The princess indeed treated Li Fan as one of her own. She continued to whisper in his ear. That soft voice massaged Li Fan's ear. It was very comfortable. According to the records of our imperial family, it is said that in another plane, there is a huge ring-shaped world. That world is divided into 6 layers. The core is called the Hidden Land Realm, the second is called the Living Realm, the third is called the Spiritual Movement Realm, then the fourth is the Great Wasteland Realm, the fifth is the Myriad Realm, and the highest, outermost, is the Heaven Realm. Ah, that is really a magical place. Li Fan listened to it with some yearning. A huge ring-shaped world. I heard that humans live in the living realm. It is a place with thin spiritual power and belongs to a low-level world. The spiritual movement realm is a place where some experts exist. The Great Wasteland Realm is the place where immortals and demons live. Speaking of which, primitive divine clans like us should live in the Great Wasteland Realm or the Myriad Realm. That kind of place sounded very interesting. In this ring-shaped world, every level has a powerful sector lord protecting it. I heard that this magical beast is the twin gold-silver lion king from the Great Wasteland domain. Ah, I really want to go and see. Li Fan was in midair when he sensed the extraordinary aura coming from the pagoda. Li Fan couldn't help but take a peek at this powerful force. Back then, it took 8 elders working together to subdue him. After so many years, he has been imprisoned in this tower as the guardian of our royal family. As long as it's here, no spirit beast will dare to come close. That way, we can put an end to the cavalry's tricks. Li Fan was suddenly enlightened. Twin gold and silver lion kings. I really want to go in and take a look. A terrifying existence that even 8 celestial immortals had to work together to subdue. What kind of power did it have? Wait a minute, we're about to land. The second prince ordered, and the red-crowned crane slowly landed outside the palace. Speaking of which, why did the old emperor suddenly disappear? Li Fan took the opportunity to ask Qiu Shuang. Breaking the secret of the royal family was still very tempting. Father, he still can't let go of that woman. Qiu Shuang sighed, her feelings were somewhat complicated. When he first came to the human world, father met a human dragon girl and fell in love with her. But then, the celestial race started a war with the humans, and both sides were destined to have a bad ending. Father was besieged by experts in the human world, and almost died. Then, in order to save him, the dragon girl willingly sacrificed herself, exhausted her life, and brought father back from the void. Li Fan was dumbfounded. What the hell, what was going on? So this old emperor of the realm beyond Avalon was actually a lover? So he was like him, a dragon knight. Although dragons were lustful by nature, who would have thought that there would be a dragon girl who was willing to die for the man she loved? For so many years, father could not forget about her. Until today, perhaps father could not bear it anymore. He was about to enter his next hibernation, but when he woke up, he did not know what would happen. Father might have thought that even if he was to sleep, he would sleep beside her. To be honest, I am a little surprised. Yes, after all, it was such a big matter. Other than the royal family, even the elders' council did not know about it. The royal family was also unwilling to acknowledge the existence of the dragon girl. This was a kind of humiliation. The little princess sighed. I understand father quite well. Let him be. To go to the ends of the earth for love. But to let his own country become like this, was it really okay to do so? The second prince and the others had already landed in front of the palace gate. At this moment, there was a group of people guarding outside the gate. These people were all wearing golden armor, holding divine weapons in their hands, and looked majestic. There were at least 100 people, and they were clustered around a strong and handsome man. This man was also wearing golden armor, but it was obviously much more luxurious. He had a crown on his head, and on his feet were cloud-soaring boots. He was as majestic as one could imagine. This guy was none other than the eldest prince, Qiu Yu. I did not expect brother to be waiting for me here. I am really touched. The second prince was dressed in a suave white robe, and he welcomed him with a smile. Humph. You still have the cheek to come. The eldest prince turned around, but his gaze swept past the second prince, and he stared straight at Li Fan. General of treason, are you here to die? With that, the 100 golden armored warriors roared in unison, and they drew their swords, pointing them at Li Fan. The little princess was unhappy. She took a step forward and stood in front of her husband. Brother, he is my husband now. I will not allow you to use force on him. Li Fan stretched out his hand and took a step forward. At the same time, he blocked the princess behind him. Your Royal Highness, a straightforward person will not resort to insinuations. I will not allow you to betray the third princess' lifelong happiness in order to fight for the throne. Still talking nonsense. The eldest prince was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. You have no right to speak. Die here. The eldest prince roared, but the second prince waved his fan and stood between him and Li Fan. Brother, don't be too ugly. I can only say that you have bad taste, and you have chosen the wrong person. How can that good-for-nothing Prince Chang compare to General Li? Since when is it your turn to teach me? The eldest prince glared at him, but the second prince was all smiles. He did not fall for the eldest prince's trick. Brothers, let's not argue now. At this moment, a familiar voice came from the side. Li Fan turned around and saw the eldest princess, Qiu Ya, leading her sister, Qiu Lan, and the beautiful Prince Yu. They were walking slowly from the side. The three women looked at him with complicated gazes. Chapter 1739. Especially the Grand Princess. She looked at him with a complicated gaze. She probably never thought that she would send Li Fan to her sister for the sake of benefits. This time, she had completely sent Li Fan away. The third princess Qiu Shuang leaned into Li Fan's embrace. For some reason, Qiu Yu was actually a little jealous. Greetings to the Grand Princess, the second princess and Lord King Yu. Li Fan, on the other hand, bowed to the three of them generously. I haven't seen you for 2 months and you've changed so much. Qiu Yu looked at Li Fan and her voice was filled with mockery. You've become stupid. You actually want to marry Qiu Shuang. Qiu Lan crossed her arms and interrupted, what's so good about this girl? Her chest isn't even as big as mine. Why would he want to marry her? The scene was slightly awkward. Qiu Yu was defeated by her sister's intelligence. Qiu Shuang unhappily puffed out her chest. Generally, I gave you the cinnabar wildfire to protect the Grand Princess. Fortunately, the beautiful Queen Yu was quick-witted. She quickly spoke and changed the topic, but now that you've betrayed the Grand Princess and joined the third princess, can you return this cinnabar wildfire to me? Sure. Li Fan did not mind. Although this spear had followed him for a long time, it was after all not his. Li Fan had never cared about worldly possessions. But unexpectedly, when Li Fan handed the cinnabar great spear to Queen Yu, the great spear trembled in her hands. Finally, it broke free from her hands and flew back to Li Fan. With a thud, it stabbed into his feet. Li Fan was stunned. What did this mean? The beautiful Queen Yu was a little angry and stomped her feet. Since it has chosen its master, then let it be. Li Fan was a little surprised that the divine armament chose its master. He did not expect that the divine weapon cared about him so much. Since that's the case, you can stay by my side. Li Fan held the warm spear again. He could feel the scarlet spear trembling slightly, as though it was responding to him. Okay, I won't leave you again. It's just a spear, yet it's so clingy. Qiu Shuang pouted as if she was jealous of the spear. Li Fan was a little speechless. This girl, she was even jealous of a gun. This vinegar jar was overturned too quickly. If she really followed him to Earth, perhaps, the vinegar jar would be smashed to pieces. Let's not argue anymore. Currently, General Li is my man. Imperial brother, please give me some face. The second prince waved his fan with a smile on his face. This time, he was the fisherman who reaped the benefits, so he was naturally happy. This matter is not over. The eldest prince knew that this was not the time to collect debts. He had more important things to do. Let's all rely on our own abilities. Let's enter the palace. The second prince stood in front of the palace gates and looked at them. The two scarlet gates were each 10 meters tall. There were copper nails embedded on them and a bronze ring with a lion's head hung on it. No one entered because there was a 5-meter-tall giant standing in front of the gates. This giant wore silver-white armor and held a crescent moon blade in his hand. The handle of the blade was on the ground as though it was there. It was this one brother who stood there, blocking everyone's way. General, I am the eldest prince, the legitimate heir to the throne. The eldest prince walked forward and said to this man. Your Majesty, please leave for now. No one is allowed to enter the palace. This giant was Huang Taiji. When he spoke, his voice exuded some sort of power that made people tremble uncontrollably. My goodness, this person is very strong. The top expert of the royal family, Huang Taiji. According to the third princess, he was the protector of the entire royal family and even the entire imperial capital. He was also the strongest man other than the 8 sky immortals. Li Fan was a little itchy and wanted to have a go with him. Pooey, it was a fight. I am the eldest prince. Father is not here, so I should be the one overseeing the palace. The eldest prince continued to shout. But Huang Taiji closed his eyes and ignored him. The second prince chuckled, brother, you know the rules. Isn't it a bit embarrassing to be making such a big fuss? Do I need you to teach me what to do? Yeah, you did a really good job. The second prince put down his fan and took a step forward. He cupped his hands towards Huang Taiji. General, I am here to challenge the palace gates. All right. Huang Taiji finally opened his eyes. As a member of the royal family, if you can defeat me, then you are qualified to enter the palace. According to the rules, I can ask for help, right? The second prince was not in a hurry and continued to speak. Of course, a true emperor will naturally have thousands of talents to assist him. Huang Taiji did not object. No matter how many experts you bring, come at me. As he spoke, he lifted the crescent moon blade and swung it horizontally. A huge gust of wind and waves instantly struck everyone. The first prince and the second prince both took a step back, while the guards around them were all blown away, falling from side to side. Li Fan's eyes lit up. Good. Beautiful strength. The only ones who did not move were Li Fan and a black-armored guard beside the eldest prince. The two of them noticed each other and looked at each other silently. They saw the threat in each other's eyes. It seemed that they were the real enemies. Not bad. Seeing that there were two people who could stand firm, Huang Taiji seemed a little excited. He raised his thick eyebrows and raised his crescent moon blade. His voice was like spring thunder as he scolded them. Come, challengers, step forward. An empty space had been swept in front of him. Only Li Fan and the black-armored man were standing there. Since that's the case, let's fight. Now that things had come to this, the eldest prince had no other choice but to fight. He waved his hand, and the hundreds of golden-armored guards behind him immediately rushed forward and pounced at Huang Taiji. These people were all experts. After all, they were the eldest prince's personal guards, so they were definitely not weak. However, when these people pounced in front of Huang Taiji, they were no match for him. Huang Taiji only waved his crescent moon blade, and the huge force sent the people surrounding him flying. Weak, too weak. Send some experts. Huang Taiji's voice was like rolling thunder, shaking the palace. Huang Taiji, General Huang, let me fight you. The eldest prince grabbed a large sword and released his magical body, turning into a 4-meter-tall giant. He grabbed a large sword that had also turned into a 4-meter-long sword and jumped toward Huang Taiji. Clang! Huang Taiji raised his large blade and deflected the eldest prince's sword. Then, he raised his leg and kicked the eldest prince away. The eldest prince's body flew more than 5 meters away. He stabbed the large sword into the ground and stabilized himself. Chapter 1740. The first prince is holding a large treasure sword. His attack power is already very strong, but he can't do anything to Huang Taiji. You are really well developed. What's the use of brute force against an expert like Huang Taiji? The second prince sneered. Following that, he waved his hand. Over 100 of his guards took out their streaming fire seals and released a scarlet fireball. If there was only one fireball, it might not have any effect. But now there are over 100 of them, covering the sky and earth, pressing down on Huang Taiji. But Huang Taiji doesn't care. He smashed his saber on the ground and laughed loudly. Ha! 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 The sound waves of his laughter are louder than the previous one. The powerful sound waves spread out and hit the surroundings, actually shattering the second prince's fire rain. Li Fan wants to clap his hands in praise. My goodness, this brother is awesome. This person's strength is definitely close to a heaven immortal, right? So strong, the second prince's hair is also disheveled. He has lost his cool appearance and looks somewhat miserable. Too strong. The first prince is also a bit helpless. With such a powerful royal guardian, he doesn't know whether to be happy or cry. The secret edict is in the palace. If they don't overcome this difficulty, it will be too late when the secret edict is announced. The first prince points at Huang Taiji. Dong Shang, what are you waiting for? Kill him. The body of the black-armored man who has been standing at the side suddenly swelled up and turned into a 5-meter-tall giant. Carrying a huge battle axe, he slashed towards Huang Taiji. The air seems to be split and the world seems to be distorted. Huang Taiji finally feels a trace of threat. He raises his crescent moon saber and blocks Dong Shang's horizontal slash. At the same time, Huang Taiji raises his leg and kicks towards Dong Shang. But Dong Shang raises his knee and blocks Huang Taiji's leg. Bang! Huang Taiji doesn't move at all. Dong Shang's body slid back a meter. But when the two of them exchange blows, Li Fan can see the strength of the first prince's helper. Generally, I'll leave this to you. The second prince says to Li Fan. Stop him. The first prince seemed worried about Li Fan. He ordered Dong Shang to stop Li Fan. Dong Shang was very loyal. He immediately moved, raised his giant axe, and chopped at Li Fan. Li Fan was rather disdainful. This person was strong, but his martial techniques were too ordinary. He stretched out his right hand and used dragon capturing hand to block Dong Shang's axe with his palm. Dong Shang's body trembled, and the eldest imperial prince was also shocked. Good heavens, he can even block this. You still need to practice your martial skills a little more. Li Fan exerted strength in his fingers and crushed the axe blade. At the same time, his other hand held the scarlet spear and flicked it forward. Dong Shang immediately let go of the axe and both his hands grabbed forward. He actually grabbed the shaft of Li Fan's spear. He tried to copy Li Fan and break the spear. But Li Fan seemed to have expected this. He immediately took a step forward, and at the same time, the spear in his hand exploded with power and stabbed forward. Pooh! The spear broke through Dong Shang's hands and stabbed into his abdomen. Li Fan then flicked upwards, throwing Dong Shang into the air. Pa! Li Fan followed up with a great rock spreading wings. The spear hacked down, slapping Dong Shang's body down and heavily smashing him to the ground. Go! In the end, Li Fan threw out his great spear and immediately pierced through Dong Shang's head, nailing him to the ground. The first prince had spent a lot of effort to find a helper, but he was killed by Li Fan just like that. The first prince vomited blood in anger, and the second prince could not help but clap his hands. Invincible war god. Finding him was indeed the right choice. Li Fan stretched out his hand and pulled out his spear. He dragged it in his hand and walked towards Huang Taiji. Your martial skills are outstanding. You must have learned it from the lower realm. Seeing Li Fan easily killing Dong Shang, Huang Taiji could not help but nod towards him. That's good too. I hope you can give me more surprises. Don't worry, I can give you more. As Li Fan said that, he suddenly took a step forward with his spear in hand. His body seemed to leave an afterimage as he instantly appeared in front of Huang Taiji. This spear was aimed at Huang Taiji's throat. This sudden attack was too fast. But Huang Taiji subconsciously raised his saber and used it to block Li Fan's spear stab. Clang! Huang Taiji's body took a step back, and Li Fan took the opportunity to move forward. He waved the spear in his hand and flicked 3 times. Clang! Clang! Bang! Huang Taiji's saber was only able to block the first 2 attacks. When it came to the third attack, he was unable to react in time and was hit in the stomach by Li Fan's spear, but thanks to Huang Taiji's powerful avatar, this heavy attack only made him take a step back. Li Fan instantly pulled out his spear and aimed it at Huang Taiji's throat. Ha! Huang Taiji immediately kicked out and pushed Li Fan away. At the critical moment, he was nearly stabbed to death by Li Fan. But his reaction speed at such a critical moment made Li Fan feel that it was troublesome. Some experts fighting had already become a kind of instinct. Just now, Huang Taiji was saved by instinct. Not bad. Huang Taiji could not help but nod his head, as expected of an expert appreciated by the second prince. He actually forced me to counterattack automatically. Less nonsense, continue fighting. Li Fan's fighting spirit had already been ignited. Although he could win in an instant if he used Heavenly Thunder transformation, he did not want to do so. But for the sake of a martial artist's dignity, he didn't want to do so, and he didn't want to expose his trump card. Li Fan carried his spear and his body sped up again. He pounced in front of Huang Taiji like lightning and stabbed his spear towards Huang Taiji's lower body. 2 arms suddenly stretched out from Huang Taiji's back and grabbed Li Fan's spear. As for the other 2 arms, they waved their crescent blades and chopped down towards Li Fan's head. What the hell? This move was too awesome, even Li Fan was shocked. But he also had battle instincts. Almost subconsciously, he kicked his left leg up high and stepped on the blade. The golden body saved Li Fan once. He kicked away Huang Taiji's saber while he held his spear with both hands and rubbed it. The spear spun and the force on it shook off Huang Taiji's palm and stabbed towards his heart again. But 2 copper hammers appeared in Huang Taiji's hands. He swept the hammers on Li Fan's body and sent Li Fan flying. Li Fan's body somersaulted twice in the air before landing on the ground. He took 2 steps back and stabilized his body. Looking at the 4-armed Huang Taiji, Li Fan felt his scalp tingle. My god, this person's avatar was actually trained to the extent of having 4 arms. The number 1 warrior of the royal family is indeed not easy to deal with. The crown princes had difficulty breathing. After a long time, the second prince finally sighed faintly. Chapter 1741. Huang Taiji has already cultivated a 4-armed avatar. At his level, especially at the Sky Immortal level, he can evolve his avatar to an even stronger state. Why aren't you using your avatar? Huang Taiji berates Li Fan. As the protector of the royal family, Huang Taiji has always maintained his avatar in a state. He respects every opponent, but this kid in front of him doesn't even use his avatar. Huang Taiji can't accept this. There's no need. Li Fan's body will only grow when he uses Heavenly Thunder transformation. This was his last resort, and he couldn't use it casually. Good, you dare to humiliate me. Huang Taiji is a little angry. He roars and his body changes again. His lower body splits into half again, forming a ponytail with 2 hooves. This time, Huang Taiji actually transformed into a giant centaur. He has 4 arms, wielding 2 hammers and a crescent moon blade. He looks at Li Fan angrily. I heard that when the avatar is trained to the extreme, it can evolve again, becoming more suitable for battle. I heard that the 8 sky immortals have many different avatars, but this Huang Taiji can also train to this level of strength. Truly amazing. Avatar Soul. The first prince and second prince can't help but feel deep veneration. Amazing. Brat, I'd like to see how capable you are to defeat my Dharmakaya. As Huang Taiji speaks, his 4 legs move and his entire body turns into a gust of wind. He instantly arrives in front of Li Fan and swings his blade, aiming for Li Fan's head. Li Fan doesn't move. He stabs his spear into the ground and extends his hands. He uses Dragon Catcher Hand and grabs the blade with a few fingers. Dang! Li Fan has the invincible golden body and Dragon Catcher Hand. It is indeed a high-level defensive technique. However, Huang Taiji's blade is blocked while the 2 hammers hit Li Fan's body. Dong! Li Fan's body flew up while Huang Taiji relied on his 4 legs' agility to catch up to Li Fan in an instant. At the same time, the broadsword slashed at Li Fan's waist once again. However, while in the air, Li Fan still turned around and kicked Huang Taiji's saber. Li Fan's body rose into the air. Then, he slapped down with his palm. The Dragon King seal landed on Huang Taiji's body. A huge palm print appeared under Huang Taiji's feet. His body also paused slightly. Clearly, he had been affected by this palm. However, Huang Taiji's dermic body was too strong. How could ordinary means injure him? Huang Taiji's 2 bronze hammers pincer attacked again, preparing to smash Li Fan into a meat patty. No matter how good Li Fan's endurance training was, he would not be able to withstand this move. Li Fan's body turned around again and he followed up with another Dragon King seal. He used the wind from his palm to suppress Huang Taiji. At the same time, he jumped more than a meter high and dodged the 2 bronze hammers. Huang Taiji raised his body and continued to swing the 2 hammers at Li Fan. Li Fan continuously kicked out with both feet, stepping on the bronze hammers to stabilize them and prevent Huang Taiji from attacking him. The exciting exchange between the 2 left the surrounding people dumbfounded. Awesome! This is a real exchange between experts. And this General Li is also very powerful. He can actually fight evenly with Huang Taiji, who has a dermic body. The eldest prince was also regretful and angry. He actually failed to keep such a powerful person here. Instead, he let him go to his younger brother's camp. Big trouble, this is definitely a big trouble. Brat, you're good. Huang Taiji couldn't do anything to Li Fan. He roared angrily and a powerful aura suddenly erupted from his body. Li Fan suddenly felt his body sink and landed on the ground with a thud. My unique aura can increase gravity. Huang Taiji looked at Li Fan, how about it? Let's see where you can run now. As he spoke, he ran forward again and swung his saber at Li Fan. Clang! Li Fan acted like nothing happened. He raised his leg and kicked away Huang Taiji's saber. At the same time, Li Fan extended his hand and the vermilion spear that was stabbed into the ground flew over and landed in his hand. Following his footsteps, he thrust it forward. Pooh! This long spear finally stabbed into Huang Taiji's calf and almost pierced through it. Huang Taiji swung his bronze hammers and forced Li Fan back. But he didn't expect that after he used his aura, he still couldn't do anything to Li Fan. Instead, he was stabbed by him. It's just 2 times the gravity. It's nothing. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders as if he didn't care. Huang Taiji frowned. This kid is really the first strong enemy he's met. None of his methods had any effect on him. You're the first expert I've met in so many years. Huang Taiji felt deep respect for Li Fan. No matter if you win or lose, you've won my respect. As he spoke, he raised his saber high and swept it, creating a huge wind. Then, he pointed at Li Fan. I'll use all my strength to defeat you. As he spoke, Huang Taiji's figure flashed and instantly appeared in front of Li Fan. The crescent moon saber in his hand left after images as he continuously slashed at Li Fan. Swish! 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 The series of attacks were extremely fast and powerful. It gave off the feeling of being unparalleled in the world. Li Fan's spear was not suitable for defense. Although his legs were fast, Huang Taiji, who had activated Dharmakaya, was actually faster than him. After all, Huang Taiji had 4 hands and was very agile. Li Fan started to be at a disadvantage. You're very strong, but you're not qualified. Huang Taiji charged forward. When his hooves landed on the ground would shake and disrupt Li Fan's steps. In the end, Huang Taiji's saber swept across Li Fan's waist. He flew out and smashed a stone statue beside him. It's over, second prince facepalmed. Huang Taiji was still an invincible existence. After he showed his true strength, General Li was no match for him at all. First prince felt lucky. Great. Since he couldn't get it, the other party couldn't either. Looks like he can't either. Chiyoya crossed her arms and curled her lips. He actually wants to challenge the #1 expert of the royal family. What wishful thinking. That's not for sure. Qiu Shuang looked at her man with confidence. He can definitely do it. You're not even married yet and you're already siding with an outsider? You just don't understand your husband. Qiu Shuang said, you never understood his heart, but you want to keep him by your side and make use of his strength. That's why you keep walking down the wrong path step by step. You speak as if you understand him. Chiyoya sneered, he's just a martial artist, but he doesn't have a brain. Challenging Huang Taiji is courting death. Really? Yes. If he can defeat Huang Taiji, I'll eat shit. Qiu Lan shouted first. Chapter 1742. Second sister, don't be too confident. Qiu Shuang smiles, otherwise, you will be the one at a disadvantage. I think you are too naive to actually believe that stinking brat. What ability does he have to think that he can defeat the #1 expert of the royal family? Qiu Lan crosses her arms and snorts, if you lose, hand over Li Dazhuang and make him our slave. Do you dare? I will not use my husband as a wager. Qiu Shuang pulls out her sword. What are you doing? The 2 princesses are a little shocked. Could it be that their little sister wants to fight them? If my husband loses, I will leave my life here. How about it? Qiu Shuang's words caused the 2 princesses to stare at each other. Forget it. Not gambling, not knowing why, Qiu Lan suddenly loses her confidence. What kind of charm does this Li Dazhuang have to make her little sister fall in love with him? Even if you trust General Li so much, he is still not Huang Taiji's opponent. How can the #1 expert of the royal family be defeated so easily? Chiyoya waves her hand, we are sisters. There is no need for me to take your life. Let's talk after watching. Qiu Shuang points at the statue. Li Fan is standing up from the rubble. On his body, there is an indistinct lightning flickering. First level of heavenly thunder transformation. Li Fan's strength instantly doubles. Just this level of liberation is enough to contend against Huang Taiji. Ha! Li Fan roared, and the surrounding ground suddenly cracked. It was obvious that it was affected by his powerful strength. Very strong. Huang Taiji's eyes brighten, the current you might be qualified to fight with me. With that, Huang Taiji has already raised his horse hooves and instantly arrives in front of Li Fan. The large blade and hammer in his hands attack Li Fan together. But Li Fan just stands there and only stretches out his hands to block all of Huang Taiji's attacks. With the invincible golden body, Li Fan's body is harder and sharper than any weapon. After deflecting Huang Taiji's attack, Li Fan grabs hold of the gap and fiercely stabs with his left leg. Pooh! Huang Taiji's other calf was also pierced by Li Fan, causing him to stagger. But this was just the beginning. Li Fan turned and kicked more than 10 times in a row. All of them were like bullets, piercing through Huang Taiji's body. Golden blood flowed out of Huang Taiji's body. He finally could not hold on any longer. With a plop, his 2 front hooves knelt on the ground. As he knelt, he seemed to have seen the young man in front of him clearly. His skin was white, and there was a faint glow of electricity flowing through it. You are so powerful. Whose descendant are you? Huang Taiji asked subconsciously. Earth. Li Fan whispered in Huang Taiji's ear. Huang Taiji's eyes widened. Before he could say anything, Li Fan's hands had already grabbed his head, twisted it, and pulled. With a crack, Huang Taiji's head was forcefully pulled off by Li Fan. Huang Taiji's eyes were still wide open as if he had died with a grievance. Everyone was dumbfounded. That was Huang Taiji. The top expert of the royal family was killed just like that. His head was still raised high in Li Fan's hands, as if he was demonstrating his strength and also as a memorial. The 2 princesses looked as if they had eaten a dead fly. They were as ugly as they could be. He. The second prince reacted first. He waved his fan and laughed heartily. Not bad, not bad. It seems that I won this time. Nonsense. That throne is mine. The first prince roared and was about to lead the charge into the palace. However, the second prince's men immediately stopped them and sealed the palace gates. Since Huang Taiji is no longer here, who can stop us? The first prince waved his sword and was about to force his way in. Li Fan stretched out his hand and grasped the red spear again. He took 2 steps forward and replaced Huang Taiji's previous position. When the first prince saw him, he subconsciously stopped and looked a little afraid. Motherfucker. This man is even stronger than Huang Taiji. Who can deal with him? Who defeated Huang Taiji? At this moment, a figure appeared in front of everyone. When they saw this person, everyone except the crown princes knelt down. Greetings, Elder Ren. Everyone's greeting made Li Fan understand this person's identity. Elder Ren. It was a blurry figure that looked somewhat illusory. It was probably just an illusion. However, this illusion gave Li Fan a sense of pressure. Is this the power of a sky immortal? That's right. In that case, enter the palace. Elder Ren waved his hand, and the palace gates opened. As the legitimate heir, the first prince should enter first. Elder Ren, that doesn't sound right. Just as the first prince was about to enter, the second prince waved his hand, and 2 subordinates blocked his way. This Huang Taiji was defeated by my men. If anyone should enter, it should be me. Since when was it the first prince's turn? Pfft. I'm the legitimate heir to the throne. The first prince glared angrily, while the second prince argued. At this moment, a young man slowly walked out of the palace. This young man carried a large sword on his back, and he walked with a majestic gait. Fourth brother. Autumn Leaf. The fourth prince? Li Fan quickly sized him up. Didn't this brother disappear for a long time? Why did he come back to meddle in this mess? All of you, stop arguing. Autumn Leaf's voice was as loud as a bell. He raised a golden secret edict and opened it. Father has a secret edict to pass the throne to my third sister, Qiu Shuang. What? When this secret order was issued, everyone was shocked. Impossible. The first prince and the second prince roared at the same time. They could no longer care about the bearing of princes. This was a major matter. They had been fighting fiercely, and it was a mess. In the end, they had worked hard for someone else. The seal is here, and the late emperor's secret edict cannot be faked. The fourth prince looked righteous. Furthermore, I have no interest in the throne. I will not work hard for my third sister. Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty! Everyone immediately knelt down in front of the third princess. The third princess was still in a daze, as if she was not used to this situation. I don't admit it. The first prince angrily rebuked. This is impossible. How can Qiu Shuang be suitable to be an emperor? Only I am suitable. Only I can lead everyone to invade the human world. Qiu Shuang is not suitable to be an emperor. This matter needs further consideration. The second prince looked at Qiu Shuang. Qiu Shuang, you don't want to be an emperor either. Why don't you pass the throne to me now? You can enjoy the treatment of the retired emperor. How about that? In an instant, the palace turned into a farce. Li Fan crossed his arms and couldn't help but sneer. These people were really like clowns. All right, silence. At this moment, Elder Ren suddenly spoke. Don't fight, don't fight. Since there is a secret edict from the late emperor, let's follow it. Chapter 1743. When the crown prince heard this, he was speechless. Didn't Elder Ren always support me? Why is he supporting Qiu Shuang now? Could it be that he feels that the weak Qiu Shuang is easier to control than me? Elder Ren, you can't. The crown prince was about to speak when Elder Ren waved his hand. A terrifying pressure immediately filled the palace. I am only doing this on official business. Elder Ren said expressionlessly. The crown prince was furious. Elder Ren spoke again. May the empress ascend to the throne. Although this ceremony was a little sloppy, settling the throne quickly seemed to be able to quell the chaos here. Everyone immediately surrounded Qiu Shuang and walked into the main hall. The crown prince took the opportunity to complain to Elder Ren. Elder Ren. This is different from what we agreed on. You're just too impatient. Elder Ren kept his hands in his sleeves. He didn't speak, but his voice rang in the crown prince's mind. This is just a temporary measure. Once the secret edict is issued, everyone will agree that Qiu Shuang will inherit the throne. Unless you want to risk the world's condemnation and go against everyone to fight for the throne with Qiu Shuang. Although the eldest prince was displeased, he knew deep down that Elder Ren was right. If he did that, he would be in great danger. Even if he really won against Qiu Shuang, everyone in the world would be his enemy. At that time, he would be handing over the throne to the second prince. Damn it, he still had to endure at a time like this. The crown prince was very unwilling, but he could only follow Elder Ren's arrangements. With the current situation, he couldn't touch Qiu Shuang for now. Furthermore, Qiu Shuang had the little god of war, Li Dezhuang, helping her. This wasn't going to be easy. Wait. He could only continue to wait. Everyone entered the main hall. The ground was paved with gold bricks and decorated with jade. It looked luxurious and luxurious. A giant throne was placed at the top of the hall. It was about 10 meters tall. On the back of the throne was a raised dragon head. On each side of the throne was a pair of dragon wings, as if they were going to fly at any moment. Although Qiu Shuang was still a little stunned, under Li Fan's encouraging gaze, she sat on the throne that everyone was jealous of. Regarding this, Li Fan was, of course, happy. This was a blessing from the heavens. If Qiu Shuang became the empress, and she was so obedient to him, would he be able to influence her through him and make her stop the war against the human world? Since the resources in Beyond Avalon were almost depleted, he could buy a bigger island on Earth for these people to live on. Then, he placed a large barrier on the island, isolating it from the rest of the world, making it look like Demon Island. Li Fan didn't even dare to think about this kind of thing that had the best of both worlds. But since Qiu Shuang had become the empress, he could still study it. In that case, the biggest enemy right now should be the Elders Guild. After all, the imperial family had a name but no power. The real bosses behind the scenes of the entire realm beyond Avalon were the Elders Guild and these monsters. Li Fan glanced at Elder Ren, who was standing quietly at the side. It was said that this fellow did not get along with the other elders. In that case, could they use him as a breakthrough point and take down the Elders Council step by step? The war has been going on for a long time. Qiu Shuang had already put on a golden dragon robe. She sat on the dragon throne and calmed down for a while. Then, she raised the scepter in her hand and said, I announce that from now on, the internal strife in Beyond Avalon has ended. A huge projection of Qiu Shuang's words had already been sent into the sky of Beyond Avalon. At this moment, everyone saw the Empress' first order. The entire nation cheered. The internal strife in Beyond Avalon had caused the heavens to be angry and the people to be resentful. The people had no way to live. When Qiu Shuang announced the end of the internal strife, everyone fell in love with their empress. She was the true inheritor of the throne. Long live the empress! Long live the empress! Some people were so happy that they shed tears. Peace finally returned to Beyond Avalon. The internal affairs officials in the palace started to calculate for the empress. The internal strife this time caused Beyond Avalon to lose at least a third of its population. I hope that there will never be a war in Beyond Avalon. When Qiu Shuang saw this report, she couldn't help but sigh. Respected Empress, since the internal strife has been settled, we should talk about the matter of invading the human world. The eldest prince was unwilling to be left out. He suddenly took a step forward and half knelt in front of Qiu Shuang. We don't have much resources left. We might not be able to survive this hibernation day. I hope that the Empress can postpone the hibernation day and quickly invade the human world. Big Brother wants to gather the military power, right? The second prince interfered. The Empress has just ascended the throne and you already want to gather the military power? Nonsense, I support the Empress. The eldest prince lied through his teeth. Don't you slander me. Support? I think you are just jealous, right? Qiu Shuang, do you think that you will get better after destroying me? Hee, I just want to help the royal family get rid of some hidden dangers. The two princes started to quarrel in the hall. Qiu Shuang seemed to be tired of listening to them. She waved her hand and interrupted the two of them. Today is not the court, we will not discuss this matter. Her Majesty's first ascension ceremony needs a few more days to prepare. Elder Ren finally opened his mouth. Let's discuss the matters in the imperial court in 3 days' time after the ceremony. Since Elder Ren had spoken, how could they not listen to him? Everyone agreed in unison, and Qiu Shuang heaved a sigh of relief. She was now forced to become the empress, but her mind was still empty, and she did not know what to do. She did not pay attention to the two brothers' quarrel. Once Elder Ren spoke, she had a good impression of him. And Elder Ren also made Li Fan wary. This old guy was obviously trying to gain the third princess' favor. He had to be careful of this kind of person. The farce finally came to an end. Li Fan and Qiu Shuang finally had a chance to have a good chat. The two of them came to the back palace. After dispersing the palace maids, Qiu Shuang collapsed on the dragon bed at the side. What's wrong, my third princess, are you tired? My heart is tired. The third princess lay there and shook her legs. She pouted and muttered, what's so good about being the empress? I have to keep a straight face. I'm still the happiest being your little princess. Being the empress is a little tiring. But I can also do some things that I can't do normally. Li Fan stood at the side and looked at the third princess who was acting coquettishly. He smiled, look, with just a sentence from you, you settled the internal conflict in the realm beyond Avalon. This is also the only thing I can do. Qiu Shuang was not stupid. This empress, I don't think I can be the empress for long. How can big brother and second brother let me sit on this position? They will definitely think of a way to overthrow me. Where did the fourth prince come from? He seems to be very supportive of you. Him. How should I put it? Qiu Shuang seemed to be a little embarrassed. Chapter 1744. He is actually the illegitimate child of my father and the human world dragon lady. The little princess's words shocked Li Fan. What? A mixed blood descendant? This secret was a little too shocking. Precisely because of this, he displayed great power at a young age. My royal brothers are no match for him at all. The advantage of bloodline, it was enviable. But this was not the main point. But didn't our sky beyond Avalon say that our mixed blood descendants will become a terrifying existence that destroys sky beyond Avalon? There is such a strange prophecy. Probably because of this, fourth brother does not have the right to inherit the throne and cannot stay in the imperial capital. Qiu Shuang was a little sad. He is only allowed to visit father once a year. The rest of the time, he has to be exiled. I see, then this fourth prince's background is really pitiful, Li Fan sighed. Anyway, being an empress is boring, I might as well travel around with fourth brother. Qiu Shuang suddenly stood up and gently held Li Fan's arm. Husband, why don't you be the emperor? Don't joke around. Li Fan hurriedly waved his hand. I do not have the royal bloodline, I can't be the emperor. But you are more suitable to be the emperor than me. Qiu Shuang softly said coquettishly, look, you are strong, brave and smart, that is why you can lead my sky beyond Avalon army to conquer the human world. Qiu Shuang, do you really want to conquer the human world? When Li Fan heard this, his expression turned serious. Yes. Qiu Shuang said frankly, isn't this the aspiration of our sky beyond Avalon? Could it be, we can't coexist peacefully with humans? Husband, I know that when you practiced martial arts with humans, you might have some deep feelings for them. But at the beginning, father also thought the same, but you have seen the truth. Not only we cannot tolerate humans, humans also cannot tolerate us. Our bloodline is better than humans, this is one of the reasons why we cannot tolerate each other. Qiu Shuang said the simplest and most convincing reason. Perhaps I can find a way for everyone to coexist. Li Fan tried to suggest, no blood, no deaths. Are you willing to try it? Husband, I believe that you have your reasons, and I am willing to support you unconditionally. Qiu Shuang said softly, but as you can see, I am just a puppet emperor. I'm not the one who can decide this war. Qiu Shuang's every sentence was on point. The little girl looked innocent but her mind was very clear. At least, it was much clearer than Li Fan's. Li Fan was now at a stage where he could not see the situation clearly, unlike the third princess, who could jump out and see the big picture. I'm sorry for making things difficult for you. Li Fan cupped his hands towards Qiu Shuang, it's my fault. You're treating me like an outsider, my husband. Qiu Shuang quickly pulled Li Fan's hand, compared to being an empress in a dragon robe, what I want to be is a bride in red. Although he warned himself not to get close to the little princess, a girl like her moved Li Fan time and time again. He could not control himself. With such a wife, what more could he ask for? Li Fan could not help but ask himself. Your Majesty, the Elders Guild invites you. Just as Li Fan was about to confess, the voice of a palace maid came from outside the door. Li Fan's heart shook violently. Is it finally here? The Elders Guild can finally meet? Okay, I will go this way. As an empress, Qiu Shuang naturally had to change the way she spoke. Husband, come with me. Qiu Shuang held Li Fan's hand gently. Is it convenient? Personally, you are my husband. Publicly, you are my imperial bodyguard, the #1 expert of the royal family. If it is not convenient for you, then who? The little princess had such a domineering side. Li Fan could not help but laugh. All right, then I'll accompany Her Majesty. It's not our empress. It's my wife. Say it quickly. Accompany my mother, my wife. My wife, will make a trip, NN. The little princess leaned in Li Fan's arms contentedly, but after they left the room, she gently left Li Fan and returned to the domineering appearance of an empress. A row of palace guards immediately protected the little princess. As an imperial bodyguard and the #1 expert of the royal family, Li Fan naturally walked beside the little princess. The Elders Guild was also located in the imperial capital, but out of respect on the surface, their palace was built in the north of the imperial capital, with the meaning of protection. The demon-subduing tower was close to the west of the royal family, the Spirit King Palace was in the south, and the royal military camp was in the west. This is the Elders Guild. After walking for about 10 minutes, the little princess pointed at the building in front and said to Li Fan. Instead of saying it was a palace, Li Fan felt that the building in front of him was more like a huge temple. Welcome, Her Majesty. A few servants and 8 guards of the Elders Guild knelt in front of the little princess. The elders are ready. Li Fan muttered in his heart, these elders are really awesome. They actually let the empress come to see them personally, instead of them going to see the empress. Qiu Shuang did not complain, she knew her concept as an emperor. Thus, she pulled Li Fan and walked into the temple. But the guards stopped Li Fan. The elders only summoned Her Majesty, the others are not allowed to enter. He is my imperial bodyguard, the #1 expert of the royal family. Qiu Shuang's expression turned stern, I want to see who dares to stop him. Your Majesty, please do not make things difficult for us. Oh? Then you can make things difficult for my imperial bodyguard? Qiu Shuang waved her hand, then I will not make things difficult for you, let's go back to the palace. A group of people surrounded her and wanted to leave, the few guards looked at each other. A guard captain hurriedly stood out and knelt in front of Qiu Shuang. Your Majesty, please forgive us. Why? Not making things difficult for you. It's not difficult, Your Majesty, please enter with the imperial bodyguard. Wouldn't it be better if you did this earlier? Qiu Shuang was satisfied. She held Li Fan's hand and walked into the Elders Guild's temple with great grace. Once inside, it was a spacious hall, sunlight shone in from the windows above, lighting up the entire hall. In the hall, there were 8 huge statues that were over 10 meters tall. Each statue exuded an ancient aura. Qiu Shuang brought Li Fan all the way to the center of the hall, standing in front of the 8 statues. Qiu Shuang greets the elders. Chapter 1745. Qiu Shuang greets the elders. Even the emperor had to bow to the elders, even if they were just statues. At that moment, Li Fan had the urge to kill the 8 elders and rule the world for Qiu Shuang. However, he could only hold it in for now. After all, he wasn't a match for these 8 old monsters. Qiu Shuang, right? The eyes of the 8 statues lit up at the same time, as if they could awaken their bodies this way. Congratulations on becoming the empress. We've discussed it and temporarily acknowledged your right to rule. However, if you go against the elders' wishes, we will remove you from your position. The elders spoke up one after another. Li Fan was infuriated when he heard them. This was clearly an attitude of superiority. What the hell? But the empress is still young. Elder Ren raised his voice. She's not mature enough in terms of military affairs. I suggest that the first prince, Qiu Yu, take over the military and appoint him as the marshal of the 3 armies. Qiu Yu is greedy for power. How can he be the marshal? That's right. I'm afraid he'll only benefit himself if he becomes the marshal. I don't agree with Elder Ren's suggestion. Next to him, Elder Xian led the others to refute Elder Ren's suggestion. Elder Ren, we know that you support the first prince. However, this matter is not something that you can make the decision on your own. A woman's voice rang out. It was elderly. She should be a woman. In comparison, the second prince, Qiu Shuang, is much more mature. He's the most suitable person to be the marshal of the 3 armies. Yes, yes. Qiu Shuang's character is impeccable. Moreover, he has thought deeply and is much more mature than Qiu Yu. The other 7 elders stood on the second prince's side, but Elder Ren snorted. Don't forget that Qiu Yu has Prince Feng backing him up. Elder Ren reminded them. The second prince doesn't have any powerful military forces under his control. If he becomes the marshal of the 3 armies, he'll have to hand over Prince Feng's military power. That's right. He's just a prince. Does he want to control his own army? What nonsense. Elder Ren sneered. We haven't even started a war with the human world and you're already fighting among yourselves. Elder Ren, you must be joking. Elderly said in a sweet voice, how is this internal force? This was just a reasonable allocation of resources. Elder Ren, don't tell me you want to monopolize this place. Elder Li, what do you mean? Elder Ren, we all know what you've been doing in the dark all these years. Yeah, if you don't want people to know, don't do it. Our discerning eyes are like torches. Everyone denounced Elder Ren together. It felt like Elder Ren was arguing with the Confucian scholars. For thousands of years, the few of you have always been working for your own interests, dividing up the resources of the sky beyond heaven. Elder Ren said coldly, it is because of this that the realm beyond Avalon has always been in a state of shortage of resources. There is no national power to conquer the human world. If we let you continue to divide like this, forget about conquering the human world, our human realm beyond heaven will be destroyed by our own hands sooner or later. Nonsense. You asked the first prince to start a war. Look at how much destruction the sky beyond Avalon has suffered. We lost a third of our population. This is a disaster. The realm beyond Avalon needs a revolution. Elder Ren said loudly, without this revolution, the realm beyond Avalon will self-destruct. You're just twisting words and forcing logic. No one will support you, Elder Ren. That's right. Don't even think about it. Ayaya, we've been talking for so long. Let's listen to Her Majesty's opinion. The few elders seemed to have finally remembered the insignificant Qiu Shuang. Their gazes landed on Qiu Shuang again. It seemed like Qiu Shuang's opinion had become important. The commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. I've decided to let Li Dazhuang take the position. Qiu Shuang directly recommended Li Fan, my 2 royal brothers are not suitable. Li Dazhuang. Is he the one who defeated the number 1 expert of the royal family? That's him. He looks very young. The elders first started discussing. Then, Elder Ren spoke again. Since he defeated the number 1 expert of the royal family, it means that his strength is indeed not bad. He stared at Li Fan. Elders, is the position of the head of guards still empty? Indeed, there's no suitable candidate. Maybe he can. Everyone seemed to have reached an agreement very quickly. Qiu Shuang, however, became slightly nervous. She gently pulled Li Fan's finger. Elders, please allow me to reject. Li Fan said loudly, I'm loyal to Her Majesty. I'm only willing to be her guard. What a stupid person. The head of guards has almost the same authority as the emperor. Short-sighted. This person is obsessed with love. He's useless. The elders were rather disappointed. Elder Ren didn't mention this matter anymore. Since that's the case, then I can't let you be the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. He said slowly, the commander-in-chief of the 3 armies is of utmost importance. It must be strictly examined by the people of my elders' association. If that's the case, then let the position of commander-in-chief of the 3 armies be empty first. Qiu Shuang finally made her decision. You're just a mere empress. Do you want to make the decision for us? Don't be too arrogant. You've just become the empress not long ago. Only we can decide the position of commander-in-chief of the 3 armies. The elders immediately started to gesticulate. Everyone, you guys are too brazen. Li Fan felt Qiu Shuang's nervousness. He lightly squeezed Qiu Shuang's palm before raising his head and looking straight at the elders. Is our sky beyond skies empress going to let you guys bully her? Since I'm the number 1 expert of the royal family and the protector of the empress, I can't allow you guys to be so impudent. He, what a stupid fellow. With just you. A huge pressure was instantly released on Li Fan's body. Even though Li Fan had experienced tens of times of gravity before, at this moment, he actually felt his body becoming incomparably heavy. It was as if he was about to kneel down. He immediately summoned his scarlet spear and stabbed it into the ground to support his body. I should become a wall for Qiu Shuang and shield her from the wind and rain. To go against the elders here. Li Fan smiled bitterly in his heart. This is really an unwise thing to do. But for her, maybe I can give it my all. I'm an earthling, but I'm also a man, right? If I'm a man, how can I watch as my woman is humiliated? Li Fan wore his golden armor and held on to his spear. His red cape fluttered in the wind. He stared fearlessly at the few statues around him. Cold sweat started to form on his forehead. Stupid, mortal. Elder Ren finally spoke, do you really think you can go against us? You're just the #1 expert of the royal family. We don't even care about you. Chapter 1746. As Elder Ren spoke, the stone statue's eyes suddenly shone with golden light. A huge pressure instantly pressed down on Li Fan's body. Even if Li Fan already had strength close to that of a high celestial, he still couldn't withstand this terrifying pressure. Finally, he couldn't hold on any longer. One of his legs bent, and his knee pressed down on the ground, shattering it. However, Li Fan was still holding on. He gripped the spear with both hands, and slowly stood up against this mountain-like pressure. Oh. Not bad. Elder Ren couldn't help but praise, as expected of the person who killed Huang Taiji. He actually has such strength. However, how long can he last? I'm looking forward to it. As he spoke, the pressure increased by quite a bit. Li Fan's legs were very sore, and his lumbar spine was also in excruciating pain. He let his origin chi surge continuously in his body to maintain his strength. If he didn't have the invincible golden body, he would probably have already been crushed into minced meat, right? He can hold on until this stage without using his clone. He has some ability. He's quite powerful, but unfortunately, it seems like he's about to be destroyed by Elder Ren. The elders started discussing. Elder Ren, please stop. Qiu Shuang suddenly stepped forward, and stood in front of Li Fan. Elder Ren also suddenly retracted his power, as if worried that he would hurt the Empress. Elders, I respect your decision. You can decide the position of the Marshal of the 3 armies. After you decide, just inform me. The Empress knows the big picture, much better than some people who don't know the rules. People who have received proper education are indeed different. Unruly guy, Empress, you have to teach him a good lesson. Li Fan was very unwilling. In the end, he was saved by Qiu Shuang again. In front of the elders, he was actually so powerless. His face was pale, and he stood beside Qiu Shuang. After that, he seemed to be unable to hear what the elders said, as if he was in a mess. Li Fan knew that his heart was in a mess. He had thought that he was already very strong, but he was still so weak. Damn it, it seemed that he had to become even stronger. Li Fan's eyes were slightly red. He clenched the great spear in his hand, causing it to produce a clanking sound. Husband, husband. A familiar voice suddenly came to Li Fan's ears. He suddenly woke up and looked at the autumn frost that was just inches away from him. That delicate and adorable face made Li Fan feel redeemed. The surroundings had quietened down. The 8 statues stood there quietly, without a sound. Husband, we can go back now. Li Fan nodded. Qiu Shuang held his hand gently and led him outside. I'm sorry, husband. Qiu Shuang suddenly apologized. Why should I apologize? I willfully asked my husband to accompany me here, and then suffered such humiliation. I'm really sorry, no, it's not your fault. Li Fan's heart softened. At this moment, Qiu Shuang was still thinking about him. It's because I'm not strong enough. Husband, do you want to cultivate to become stronger? Qiu Shuang looked at Li Fan and asked. That's right. I always feel like I'm being pressured by these 8 people. It's really uncomfortable. The 8 elders have cultivated for a very long time. They even control most of the resources in heavens beyond. It's quite difficult for an ordinary person to cultivate to that level. Unless, you're chosen by them. As Qiu Shuang walked, she said to Li Fan, there are 8 special rooms in the Celestial Reverend's tomb. The spiritual energy there is dense and it can increase the speed of cultivation by 10 times. It's a pity that these 8 rooms belong to the Elders Guild. Even the royal family doesn't have the right to use them. That's too overbearing. Are they covering the sky with one hand? The supreme ruler of heavens beyond is obviously our royal family's celestial reverend. They respect and fear the celestial reverend. Qiu Shuang sighed. This is probably because they're worried that another celestial reverend will appear in the royal family. Our royal family has the bloodline of the celestial reverend. Our cultivation speed is exceptional. Once we grasp the correct method, I'm afraid that a second celestial reverend will appear very soon. At that time, the Elders Guild will lose their right to speak. I see. When Li Fan heard this, he immediately understood. If the Elders Guild wants to control heavens beyond, they have to control the royal family. However, our royal family still has our own place to cultivate. It's just that to those who have the bloodline of the celestial reverend, this place isn't that effective. Qiu Shuang looked at Li Fan gently, but to you, it might be helpful. It's just that that place is extremely dangerous. I'm worried about your safety. Since you're worried, why are you telling me? Li Fan couldn't help but feel curious. My husband has his own pride. Qiu Shuang said, I can't let you lose your pride because of my willfulness. You're so nice. Li Fan had a lot of things to say, but it all turned into 3 words. Sigh, why did I meet the third princess? I was supposed to be ruthless, but I was somehow melted by the third princess. No wonder they say that the land of gentleness is the grave of a hero. Perhaps, going to that dangerous place to gain experience would also be beneficial to him. That is the demon subduing pagoda. Qiu Shuang told him the training location. Demon subduing pagoda. Is it the place where the twin golden and silver lion kings are imprisoned? Yes, although the spiritual power in that place isn't dense, under the influence of the lion kings, there is some special power. If you go there to train, you might become stronger. Your grand ceremony is around the corner. Let's talk about it after a while. Husband, you actually can't wait to go in. Qiu Shuang, however, saw through Li Fan with one look. The Elders Guild is already paying attention to you. Go in before they react. Don't look down on me. I'm the third princess of the royal family. I can do it alone. But, I'm still a little worried. I'm just that useless. Alright. But if there's anything, immediately send a signal to me. Li Fan said and whistled. A fiery red bird flew out from the forest and landed on Qiu Shuang's shoulder. Ah, what is this? It's so cute. My guardian beast. If there's anything, let it inform me. Li Fan stretched out his hand and almost dotingly rubbed the bird's head with his finger. Hey. Qiu Shuang was jealous. I want to pat its head too. Okay. Li Fan and Qiu Shuang cuddled for a while. Finally, under Qiu Shuang's instructions, he came to the front of the demon subduing pagoda. This demon subduing pagoda was also 100 meters tall. The pagoda constantly emitted a terrifying pressure. Li Fan could feel that this pressure far surpassed the few elders. Was this the so-called power of a world king? Chapter 1747. Li Fan did not understand what a world king was. It was a setting of another world. However, he had transmigrated to another world. No, it was twice. Furthermore, he had learned a powerful technique from the great cosmos god of another world, heavenly thunder transformation. How were the other worlds? Were they as dangerous as Earth? According to Li Fan's judgment, the worlds should be like bubbles, with many of them existing. Didn't the Buddhists mention the concept of 3,000 worlds? That should be the case. There were too many worlds. He was just a small rebel in one of them. But if he could save his world, Li Fan was willing to give up everything. I don't care if you are a world king or a world lord. Let's fight. Li Fan stretched out his hand and slowly pushed open the door of the demon subduing pagoda. A powerful shockwave immediately struck Li Fan's body, causing Li Fan to take 3 steps back. Dang. Every step Li Fan took left a footprint on the ground. He was still in shock. Damn, just the aura alone had such power. According to Qiu Shuang, this demon-subduing pagoda had a total of 10 levels. The twin golden lion king was on the highest level. The pressure on each level was different. The closer he got, the more he could feel how terrifying the pressure was. Just this first floor alone had already made Li Fan feel that it was difficult to breathe and inconvenient to move. Since that's the case, I'll cultivate on the first level first. Li Fan decided to cultivate step by step. He stood at the center of the first level and assumed the stance of cultivating yin and yang in reverse, allowing the essence qi to quickly circulate in his body. Other than the royal family, no one else was allowed to enter the demon-subduing pagoda. Especially with such terrifying pressure, other than Li Fan, no one else could withstand it. Hence, Li Fan could cultivate in peace here without worrying about anyone disturbing him. It was extremely difficult to cultivate in such an atmosphere. But just like in that mysterious landscape painting, the more such an environment, the faster Li Fan's spirit and strength grew. Just the pressure of the first floor had allowed Li Fan to improve faster than he had in the tomb. Li Fan rejoiced in his heart. This place was indeed not suitable for the imperial family to cultivate. They needed to absorb spiritual energy to cultivate, but he didn't need it. He was a martial fighter, and he had the Tai Chi diagram, a heaven-defying ability. He only needed to absorb a portion of the heaven and earth yuan qi, and then he would be able to continuously transform it into inner strength. Although cultivating in the tomb was fast, the more difficult the place was, the more beneficial it was to Li Fan. This Yao ceiling pagoda was practically tailor-made for Li Fan. Li Fan cultivated for an entire month on the first floor before he gained the ability to move freely on the first floor. He filled his body with yuan qi and arrived at the second level. On the second floor, the pressure was even greater. It was as if there was a mountain pressing down on him. Li Fan almost knelt down and lay on the ground. Did Sun Wukong feel the same way when he was trapped under the Five Elements mountain? He couldn't cultivate his yin-yang inverse training while lying down. Li Fan forcefully pushed away the pressure on his body and slowly stood up. He used yin-yang inverse training to accept the challenge of this predicament. On the second floor, Li Fan cultivated for 20 days. After 20 days, he had broken through the shackles of the second floor and stepped into the third floor. After 15 days, Li Fan entered the fourth floor. This time, it only took 10 days for Li Fan to step into the fifth floor. As Li Fan broke through, his progress became faster and faster. After 5 days, he was at the sixth floor. After 4 days, after 3 days, after 2 days, he was at the ninth floor. After a day of cultivation, Li Fan had already reached the threshold of exalted immortal. He also raised his feet and stepped into the 10th floor. Unknowingly, he had cultivated for 3 months. He didn't know how Qiu Shuang was doing and whether her position as empress was stable. He remembered that when he entered the Yao ceiling pagoda, she repeatedly warned him not to enter the 10th floor. The twin lion king imprisoned here was really too powerful. It was a terrifying existence that the 8 elders had barely subdued, but Li Fan was still tempted. He was already at the threshold of exalted immortal. If he wanted to break through, he needed a chance. And the 10th floor seemed to have some kind of magic that strongly attracted Li Fan. He finally couldn't help but open Pandora's box and step into it. Before he entered the 10th floor, just as he took a step up the stairs, Li Fan felt some kind of terrifying pressure. It was as if a huge existence was standing in front of him, looking down at him from above. No matter what you are, I must take a look. Li Fan let his inner strength circulate in his body, filling every cell. Recently, his invincible golden body had also been cultivated to a higher level. When Li Fan activated his inner strength with all his strength, his body also faintly emitted a golden glow. Li Fan broke through that layer of pressure, as if he had squeezed into the waves and moved forward. Just this step alone was enough to make the pressure increase continuously. Every time Li Fan took a step, he felt the pressure being released several times. I want to go up today. Li Fan was also angry. He was bullied by the elders, but he still had to be bullied by this locked-up Lion King. Damn, who was spoiled? There seemed to be an invisible door in front of him, but the essence energy in Li Fan's body surged. He used the first level of Heavenly Thunder transformation. The essence energy in his body instantly doubled. His body emitted rolling white air waves that blew out in all directions. The invisible door in front of him seemed to be opened a little. Humph. Li Fan let out a muffled grunt. He doubled his inner strength again. Second level. Li Fan's originally mixed black and white hair instantly turned silver white. Lightning coiled around his body like a snake, swimming in all directions. The invisible door seemed to finally be pushed open, and Li Fan took a step in. After crossing the last step, Li Fan finally got his wish and entered the 10th level. The 10th level of the Yao Ceiling Pagoda was the highest level. The pagoda was 100 meters tall, and the 10th level took up a height of 30 meters. This was the only way. After all, what was locked in front of him was a huge creature that was close to 30 meters tall. It looked like a half-human, half-lion orc. Its body was silver white, and it wore a tattered silver armor. It was chained in the center of the 10th level by a total of 108 chains. Sensing that someone had intruded into its territory, this guy instantly opened its eyes. Its yellow pupils stared at Li Fan, causing Li Fan's body to stiffen. A puny ant dares to disturb my rest? If it's just an ant, how can it step into your territory? Li Fan's expression remained the same in the face of this colossus. And aren't you, a so-called expert, locked here too? Chapter 1748. Roar. Hearing this, the twin Lion King flew into a rage and let out an angry roar. The entire demon-subduing pagoda was shaking. Li Fan also swayed a few times. He couldn't help but praise this bro's boldness in his heart. It was too much. His 20-meter height was not a waste. It was just that he hadn't brushed his teeth for a long time, so his breath was a little bad. You only have the ability to shout now? Li Fan still stood there steadily. His feet seemed to be rooted to the ground. He crossed his arms and looked at the shouting lion in front of him. Are you angering me, mortal? The twin Lion King seemed to have calmed down. It tilted its head and stared at Li Fan with its yellow eyes as if it was sizing him up. Wait, you have the aura of a god on you? The aura of a god? Are you talking about the primordial god race? Pooey. What kind of god are they? They are just some invading outsiders. As the twin Lion King spoke, its body suddenly trembled. Then, its huge body suddenly started to shrink. Very quickly, it transformed into a 2-meter-tall miniature version and stood in front of Li Fan. However, those chains also became smaller and were still locked on its body. It's a god from another plane, and it's the strongest kind. The twin Lion King's consciousness seemed to have been awakened by this aura. It just stood in front of Li Fan and started to communicate with Li Fan. This person's aura is very strong, it can almost be compared to the Myriad Realm's lord. Only Myriad Realm? Then what about the Heavenly Realm? Li Fan thought of what Qiu Shuang had mentioned to him before. It was about the classification of the other world. The highest realm there was the Heavenly Realm. The Heavenly Realm, that is a mysterious place. I have never seen it before. The twin Lion King sighed, I am just a great wasteland realm's lord. 6 great realm lords, one stronger than the other. It's a pity that you're not from our world. Otherwise, you could have defeated me and obtained my blessings and abilities. Damn, the other world is so awesome. Li Fan really wanted to go and have a look. It's been a long time since I came to this world by accident. In the end, I was locked up by the 8 people outside. Thousands of years of imprisonment had worn away all of my rationality. If I hadn't sensed the aura of God on you, I would have slowly turned into a mindless killing machine. When Li Fan heard that, he felt that there was hope. He immediately used the serpent punishing stick and opened his mouth. How are you going to thank me? Perhaps we really are fated. The twin Lion King flung its silvery white lion mane. If you help me leave this place, I will teach you a set of martial skills. How about it? A martial technique from another plane. The heavenly thunder transformation that Li Fan had learned from the grand cosmos god was already heaven-defying. If he could learn something else from this realm lord, it would be pretty good too. But you're being watched by those 8 monsters. If I let you go, they'll notice right away, right? You couldn't beat them before, but can you now? I naturally have a way to leave without a sound. At the very least, within 100 years, they won't notice. The Twin Lion King laughed loudly. I am the great wasteland realm's realm lord. If they didn't have undying bodies, how could I lose? What? Undying bodies? Hearing these words, Li Fan was clearly shocked. Damn, a heavenly immortal was already troublesome enough. If they all had undying bodies, how would he play? It's a special type of formation. The Twin Lion King saw through Li Fan's doubts. It had already guessed the mystery within, so it said, these 8 people left their souls in a certain place. This way, they would have undying bodies in this heavens beyond sky. If you want to kill them, you have to lure them away from here. These 8 cunning fellows were way too cautious. How about it? Do you promise me? The Twin Lion King patted its chest. I swear on my identity as the great wasteland realm's realm lord that if I deceive you, let me suffer the 6 realms' lightning tribulation and be destroyed in both body and soul. The Twin Lion King seemed to be very sincere. Li Fan started to calculate in his mind. Should I promise him? What are you going to do after you leave? Naturally, I'm going to shatter the void and return to my previous world. You have a way to leave. Naturally. That world has my brother's aura. I can return by following his aura. The Twin Lion King looked at Li Fan with interest. Why? You're interested in my world and want to return with me? Forget it. I'm just thinking about it. In this world, I still have many things to do. Li Fan shook his head. He didn't have the time or mood to travel. The other world isn't suitable for you. Here, you might be able to achieve great things. The Twin Lion King said frankly. You're a person who has obtained the aura of a god. I shouldn't be wrong. How about it? Do you promise me? Alright, there's no harm in promising you. Li Fan had already given up. That group of elders were all demons that had turned into spirits. If he didn't learn more skills, it would really be hard to deal with them. Awesome! A bright light flashed in the Twin Lion King's eyes. You must be a gift given to me by the gods. After being trapped for so many years, I can finally escape. Ha 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 ha. The Twin Lion King laughed loudly. His laughter shook the demons' subduing pagoda again. After laughing for a long time, he stopped. He looked at Li Fan and continued. Kid, what you practice is martial arts. In our world, you're considered an ordinary inner martial arts master. And my martial arts are more suitable for cultivators to practice. I'm afraid it's already too late for you to enter the realm of cultivation. But it doesn't matter. There are 3,000 great Daos. Who knows, you might be able to enter the Dao with martial arts and become a god or a saint. Since your martial arts aren't suitable for me, then how can I practice it? Don't worry. Even if you only learn 30% of my martial arts, you can still do whatever you want. As the Twin Lion King spoke, he suddenly roared. The aura on his body condensed. In the blink of an eye, the spiritual energy on his body seemed to be burning. It spread out on the outside of his body and formed a layer of silver-white cloak. In our world, what inner martial arts masters learn is called battle techniques. I'm going to teach you this technique. It's the Silver Lion battle constellation that I used to sweep across the great wasteland world. As his voice fell, the Twin Lion King suddenly took a step forward and slammed his claw towards Li Fan. The Silver Lion flew out from his palm and pounced on Li Fan. Li Fan subconsciously raised his leg and wanted to kick this Silver Lion away. But he didn't expect this lion to be as sturdy as steel. It actually blocked Li Fan's leg and at the same time slapped his head down and stepped on him. Battle techniques are different from martial arts. Battle techniques are incomparably domineering. I'll crush your martial arts. The Twin Lion King's eyes shone brightly as he said to Li Fan with incomparable confidence. Chapter 1749. Sorry, I don't /T think so. Li Fan suddenly bounced and shook off the silver lion /S claws. Then, his body turned into a shadow and instantly appeared in front of the Twin Lion King. It /S useless. The Twin Lion King crossed his arms. Wearing a cloak, he didn't /T seem to care about Li Fan /S attack at all. Li Fan /S leg stabbed directly at the Twin Lion King /S heart. When the leg landed on the Twin Lion King /S body, its expression finally changed. Bang! The battle energy in the Twin Lion King /S chest was broken by the kick. His body flew out and smashed on the other side of the demon subduing pagoda with a thud. If he wasn't /T chained, his body would have smashed the wall and flown far away. Li Fan stood on one leg and raised one leg, looking coldly at the Twin Lion King. The silver lightning arcs were still circling around his body, crackling loudly. Amazing! The Twin Lion King stood up from the rubble and looked at Li Fan. He couldn't /T help but give him a thumbs up. I was wrong. I underestimated your martial arts. But if I return to my original form and use this move again, will you still be able to block it unscathed? As he spoke, the Twin Lion King suddenly swelled up and in the blink of an eye, he turned into the huge body of more than 20 meters. His entire body burned with silver-white battle energy, and then he slapped down with his palm. The silver lion covered the sky and pounced on Li Fan /S head. Li Fan stretched out his hands and tried to hold the silver lion. However, he was too small. His body was instantly slapped by the silver lion like he was slapping a fly. With a thud, the floor beneath him was broken open. Li Fan followed the silver lion and broke through the 9th floor before finally smashing heavily on the ground of the 1st floor. The silver lion slowly disappeared. Li Fan lay in the deep pit, his entire body aching. What the fuck? This was only the Twin Lion King that was chained up. If it were to bring out its full strength, how scary would it be? There was a special array on the demon subduing pagoda. When Li Fan was lying down, the entire pagoda had already begun to repair itself. In the end, this was still a cage. Li Fan sorted out his emotions and returned to the 10th floor. The Twin Lion King had already recovered to a height of more than 2 meters. It sat cross-legged in the middle of this level and looked at Li Fan with a faint smile. You're shameless. After Li Fan came in, he immediately said, You used your strength to suppress me in the last move. Ahem. Alright, I was indeed a little childish. The Twin Lion King's old face turned red. He coughed dryly twice and opened his mouth again. In short, I can teach you this Do technique as a condition for you to help me leave this place. How about it? Your battle skill is not bad, but my martial skill is not bad either. Exchanging this with me is too much of a loss for me. Bah! You brat, you're losing a fart. What you're doing is a business with no capital. The Twin Lion King was so angry that his kidney hurt. This brat was actually bargaining with him. Li Fan shrugged his shoulders. The Twin Lion King had no choice. Then what else do you want? I've been locked here for thousands of years. I don't have anything on me. Other than this ability, I don't have anything else. Alright, then I'll take 30% of your strength. Li Fan stretched out a finger. This won't be a big loss for you, right? Even if you lose 30% of your strength, you can still return to your own world, right? Brat. You're really greedy. The Twin Lion King was stunned for a moment. Then, he laughed out loud. Ha ha ha, good. You really don't know what's good for you. My strength is spiritual power, and your strength is inner strength. The difference between the two is huge. Their natures are different. How are you going to absorb it? Realm Lord, you don't have to worry about this. I naturally have a way. Li Fan's reverse training of yin and yang. No matter what kind of strength you have, it would all be absorbed. 20%. The Twin Lion King calculated for a moment. My strength doesn't come from nowhere. My heart will ache if I give it to you for nothing. If you don't die, this 20% is enough for you to use. Deal. Li Fan was not greedy. He would get as much as he wanted. 20% of the strength of this realm lord was not a small number. Come, I'll pass my strength to you. The Twin Lion King waved at Li Fan generously. You have to be able to withstand it. Just come. Leave the rest to me. Li Fan did not hesitate and immediately sat in front of the Twin Lion King. Only then did the Twin Lion King place his palm on the top of Li Fan's head. Then, a huge force followed the top of his head and rushed into his body. Like opening a dam and releasing water, a huge force surged into Li Fan's body. The Taiji diagram in Li Fan's body was instantly filled. Li Fan did not expect the difference in strength between the two of them to be so huge. It was only 20% of his strength. The difference was too big. Li Fan's diamond body could not hold on any longer. Streaks of blood appeared on his skin, and it looked like he was about to break down and die. The Twin Lion King had also noticed this, but he seemed to have expected this situation. Li Fan definitely could not die. If this kid died, he would not be able to escape. In order to protect Li Fan, the Twin Lion King compressed its huge strength and left a small silver-white ball in Li Fan's body. He sealed 20% of his strength in this small ball so that Li Fan would not break his body and die. Li Fan finally opened his eyes and heaved a long sigh of relief. He felt lucky to have survived a calamity. You just walked around the gates of hell. The Twin Lion King looked at Li Fan with a hint of mockery in his eyes. Li Fan was also especially embarrassed. The other party had warned him a few times, but he actually said that there was no problem. This was too embarrassing. I compressed my strength into an energy ball and stored it in your body. The Twin Lion King reminded Li Fan. You can slowly digest this power. With your ability, you should be able to digest it completely in a few years. At that time, your strength should also increase by leaps and bounds. At the very least, you will not be inferior to any one of the 8 people. A few more years, Li Fan felt the ball in his body. It was about the size of a pigeon's egg. It stopped above his Tai Chi diagram and slowly rotated. Although it was not big, the power contained in it could be said to be destructive. I have just imparted to you the techniques of battle techniques. The Twin Lion King's lion face seemed to be a little older. I have already fulfilled my promise. Human, it is your turn next. Okay. A promise was a promise. Li Fan did not have any intention of going back on his word. Tell me, how should I let you out? There is a soul-subduing nail on every floor of the demon-subduing tower. As long as you pull them out, I can leave this place. That's simple. Simple. Try it and you will know how difficult it is. Chapter 1750. Li Fan came to the 9th floor. After seeing the first soul-suppressing nail, he finally understood the Twin Lion King's words. A fist-sized nail smashed into the pillar in the middle of the 9th floor. One end of the nail was a skull face. Li Fan stretched out his hand and pulled it, but it did not move at all. Fuck, isn't it just a nail? Li Fan channeled his inner strength into his hand, but the moment he touched the nail, his strength flowed out of his palm and was sucked into the nail. What the fuck? Li Fan widened his eyes and wanted to curse. So fraudulent. If you want to pull out the soul-suppressing nail, you have to surpass a certain level of strength. The Twin Lion King's voice sounded in Li Fan's ears. However, I'm locked here and can't leave. There are a total of 9 soul-suppressing nails. Each soul-suppressing nail divides into 12 soul-suppressing locks and locks my soul. I understand. Li Fan took a deep breath and instantly activated the 3rd level of the Heavenly Thunder transformation. Li Fan's body swelled to over 3 meters tall. He pinched the soul-suppressing nail with 2 fingers and immediately felt a huge suction force coming from the nail. Humph. Li Fan's current strength far exceeded that of an exalted immortal and was equivalent to half a heaven immortal. He snorted coldly and exerted force with his fingers. With a thud, he pulled out a soul-suppressing nail. Good. The Twin Lion King's overjoyed voice came from the 10th floor. You are indeed not bad. This set of martial arts should have been taught to you by that god, right? It's filled with the aura of a god. This old lion's guess was really fucking accurate. Li Fan stomped on the ground and arrived at the 8th floor. The soul-suppressing nail on the 8th floor seemed to sense danger and trembled slightly. Li Fan used the same trick and easily pulled it out. He continuously exerted his strength and soon, the last soul-suppressing nail was pulled out by him. A huge wave of energy instantly filled the tower. But in less than half a second, the force dissipated. Li Fan felt a shadow flash past him. He turned his head and realized that the Twin Lion King had already snatched the soul-subduing nails from his hands. Dang dang dang. As it went up the stairs, it actually nailed the nails back. What's the situation? Li Fan was a little surprised, but the Twin Lion Kings came to his side again with a smile on their faces. He, it's nothing. I merely used these soul-suppressing nails to suppress one of my doppelgangers. It was very happy to have escaped, and when it spoke, it was also beaming with joy. That doppelganger has a layer of my power. Within 100 years, even those old fogies won't be able to tell. Aren't you going to leave soon? Why did you leave a clone for them to see? What are you afraid of? It also takes time to break through the void. The Twin Lion King hurriedly said, I have to find a suitable place and cultivate for a month before I can shatter the sky and leave. During this period of time, if I'm discovered by those fellows, it will definitely be difficult for me to leave. A month later, if you have any difficulties, feel free to come to the demon-subduing pagoda and dismantle the soul-subduing nails. Let my clone help you. The Twin Lion King's words moved Li Fan's heart. Even if it was a Twin Lion King with 10% of his power, it was still a very powerful combat power. But within a month, you are not allowed to enter the pagoda. Otherwise, not only will my clone not help you, but it will also kill you immediately. Do you hear me? Although this Twin Lion King was quite open-minded, it was still related to his freedom after all. He still left a backup plan for himself. At that time, the pearl in your body will also be detonated by my clone. 2 layers of power can raise the entire imperial capital to the ground. Don't worry. Since you and I have already agreed, I won't ruin your plans. Li Fan was naturally not the kind of person who would go back on his words. He told the Twin Lion King to be at ease. Forget it, our fate ends here. If you have the chance to come to the Great Wasteland Realm, feel free to challenge me. I will let you feel the true terror of a realm master. After the Twin Lion King finished speaking, he immediately fled through the door without looking back. He turned into a ray of silver light and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. After he left, the terrifying aura of the demon-subduing pagoda still existed. The 8 monsters of the Elders' Council probably never would have thought that the main character inside had already been released by Li Fan. However, those 8 were probably really difficult to deal with. Therefore, after the Twin Lion King escaped from the demon-subduing pagoda, he did not go to settle the score with those 8 people. Instead, he slipped away as soon as possible. This was also a reminder to Li Fan, making him once again realize the difficulty of defeating those 8 people. He was not in a hurry to leave the demon-subduing pagoda. He had just obtained 20% of the Twin Lion King's power and an awesome battle technique. It was just the right time to digest it here. Just like what the Twin Lion King said, the technique of using battle techniques was very different from martial arts techniques. Martial arts techniques were usually the way to use a technique. On the other hand, a Do technique was a technique to use strength. One was reserved, the other was released. The two were fundamentally different, but they seemed to reach the same goal through different means. How could he combine these two combat techniques? Li Fan felt that whether or not he could break through depended on this. If he successfully broke through, he would definitely be able to improve his combat style to another level. He had many martial arts techniques now. Which one should he fuse with this Silver Lion constellation? Li Fan then felt that he was just fusing a certain martial art technique. Did he think of the wrong method? Wasn't a battle technique a way to increase his combat strength? Let the battle chi spread on his body and let the strength condense and take shape. This had actually been seen in martial arts, especially when he used the martial god. Wasn't it like this? There was a more profound technique in the Twin Lion King's battle technique because the martial god's possession allowed the internal strength to be released, forming a martial god with powerful combat strength. However, the Twin Lion King's battle technique was not external, but combustion. That's right, it was like an internal combustion engine. It used spiritual energy as fuel, burned fully in the internal combustion engine, and then turned into stronger mechanical strength. Li Fan's eyes lit up. That's right, why don't I try it? He let the strength in his body condense into a point in his body and then imitated the effect of an internal combustion engine, letting the internal strength quickly burn. The strength in his body immediately seemed to be about to explode as it swam crazily. Ha! Li Fan felt as if he was riding a wild horse. He could not control this strength. He raised his hand and a palm print appeared on the pillar in front of him. This won't do. Although this method will increase my strength, I'll lose my ability to control it. Instead, it'll lower my combat strength. It was like giving you two pistols, a Desert Eagle and a PPK. Although the Desert Eagle was powerful, its recoil and accuracy were frightening. If it could not hit the enemy, it was not as useful as a PPK. Li Fan sat cross-legged on the floor and fell into deep thought again. Chapter 1751. Li Fan thought for a long time and tried several methods, but they all failed. Is it really impossible? Li Fan smashed his head into the wall, feeling a little dejected. He could already cultivate his inner force into his cells, but now he couldn't even control it. Wait! An idea suddenly flashed through Li Fan's mind. He felt like he had grasped something. Yes, this is it. Cells. Cells. Yes, cells. He had made a mistake just now. Who said that there could only be one internal combustion engine in a human body? In fact, there could be thousands of them. Li Fan was very excited. He integrated his inner force into every cell, and then with the cells as a unit, he treated them as countless small internal combustion engines and began to move. Li Fan didn't dare to use too much internal combustion. Otherwise, if the cells were greatly damaged, it wouldn't be a good thing. Even if he only used a little strength, the power formed by so many cells working together was very impressive. His inner force burned, and a powerful force instantly poured into every inch of Li Fan's muscles. From Li Fan's body, white smoke billowed out, like steam coming out. The steam filled the Yao ceiling pagoda and vaguely formed the shape of a dragon. Pa! He raised his leg, and with a white smoke, he easily broke a pillar that was as thick as 5 people. There was a faint dragon roar in the air. Wonderful! Li Fan did a somersault in excitement. He had really succeeded in integrating the fighting skill. Although it took him 3 days and 3 nights, it was worth it. In the following period of time, he would make use of the environment here to properly digest the energy pearl in his body. But at this moment, a fiery red bird flew in from a small window in the pagoda, landed on Li Fan's shoulder, and chirped twice. What? Li Fan was shocked. You said Qiushuang is in danger. The third princess, no, the empress, was in danger. How could Li Fan sit still, let alone cultivate? Without delay, he leaped out of the Yao ceiling pagoda and followed his vermilion bird into the depths of the imperial palace. At this moment, deep in the palace, the second prince was holding a clay doll in his hand. He stood there with a ferocious look on his face. Qiu Shuang knelt beside him and covered her chest. Her expression was one of pain. Second brother, why do you want to kill me? The guards by Qiu Shuang's side were all lying in pools of blood. At this moment, there was no one to protect the empress. She half knelt there in pain and confusion, unable to figure out what was going on. Big brother. Save me. She extended her hand towards the great prince, who was standing on the other side, but the great prince was expressionless and unmoved. Sorry, little sister. Second Prince Autumn Water's eyes were filled with viciousness at this moment. I originally didn't want to kill you, but I can't find a reason to make you abdicate, so I can only let you die. Autumn Water, you, move faster. Qiu Yu finally couldn't bear to see her like this. Don't let her suffer too much, Qiu Yu, why are you pretending to be a good person now? If you didn't divert away most of her guards, how could I have succeeded? I also don't want to kill her, but there's no proper reason. I can only do this, if the empress died suddenly, the others would have the chance to inherit the throne. Qiu Shuang knelt there and felt her consciousness being pulled out of her body bit by bit. But, she hadn't even married her husband. If she died like this, she really couldn't accept it. Moreover, she actually died in the hands of her own brother. It's so ironic to be born in a royal family. Venerable Celestial. If you saw this scene, would you still bring us to the heavens beyond heaven without any hesitation? Father, if you knew that your brothers would kill each other, would you still accompany that woman? And, husband, save me, Qiu Shuang was almost whispering. Stop dreaming. He's in the demon-subduing tower and can't care about you at all. Second Prince seemed to want Qiu Shuang to cut off this last thought. Moreover, I've already prepared another expert. Even if he appears, he can only die in front of you. Just as he finished speaking, a thunderous roar suddenly came from the room. How dare you! Immediately after, a figure, holding a vermilion spear in his hand, broke through the beam of the room. He was wearing a golden armor and a red cloak. With the sunlight, he leaped down from the sky. In Qiu Shuang's eyes, it was as if he had a boundless radiance, like a savior. Her originally anxious and panicked heart suddenly calmed down. Second Prince's expression changed drastically. The tip of the spear was already in front of his throat. At this moment, a man wrapped in black armor suddenly stepped forward and slapped the vermilion spear away. Clang! Qi exploded and Second Prince was blown away. The puppet in his hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. The man in black armor took a step back. Li Fan flipped over and landed beside Qiu Shuang. He hugged the weak girl in his arms. Husband, Qiu Shuang lay peacefully in Li Fan's arms. It was very comfortable. It's okay. With me here, they won't dare to hurt you. As Li Fan spoke, he roared. Bastard, how dare you murder the Empress? How dare you? First Prince and Second Prince cursed in their hearts. They did not expect General Li to interfere at the most crucial moment. This was bad. If the news of them murdering the Empress were to spread, the entire Avalon beyond Avalon would become their enemy. In Avalon beyond Avalon, murdering the Empress was a serious crime. It did not matter if you were a crown prince or an elder. Once you were charged with this crime, you would be imprisoned for life. This is the famous General Li in Avalon beyond Avalon. At this moment, the man in black armor suddenly spoke. He slowly took off his visor, revealing a familiar yet disgusting face. Little Overlord Li Fan, long time no see. Martial Emperor. Li Fan felt as if he had been struck by lightning, causing him to freeze. Oh no! All his efforts were in vain. He actually met a martial emperor in a place like this. This martial emperor seemed to have the nose of a dog. No matter how he disguised himself, he would be able to sniff him out. Li Fan. Little Overlord Li Fan. He's the most wanted criminal in Avalon beyond Avalon. At that instant, everyone was startled. Liao Ju, are you serious? The Second Prince's expression was one of ecstasy. This was probably the best news he had heard in the thousands of years he had lived, wasn't it? It's absolutely true, I guarantee it's genuine. The martial emperor pointed at Li Fan and spoke with a piercing voice. This top expert of the royal family is the famous #1 martial artist on earth, the owner of Li Clan Island, the master of 7 Heroes Villa, Little Overlord Li Fan. Chapter 1752. With the martial emperor's words, everyone's gaze landed on Li Fan. Even if he was an earthling, Li Fan's name was famous in skies beyond. All along, the person who had obstructed the plans of skies beyond and even defeated the lower immortals of skies beyond was him. At this time, the first prince and the second prince were excited. This was an extremely good news. Liao Ju, quickly take him down. The second prince instructed the martial emperor, aren't you known as the #1 martial artist in the world? I'll give you the chance to prove it now. Leave it to me. The martial emperor took 2 steps forward, his gaze never leaving Li Fan. Li Fan, I didn't expect you to be doing so well in skies beyond. With every step the martial emperor took, his body grew a little bigger. When he was 1 meter away from Li Fan, his body had already grown to a height of 5 meters. He had indeed reached the strength of an exalted immortal. Perfect, I don't have to look for you. Die. As the martial emperor spoke, he raised his palm and slapped down towards Li Fan's head. The essence in Li Fan's body immediately started to burn. He raised a finger and blocked the martial emperor's palm. What? The martial emperor was shocked. Li Fan's strength seemed to have increased again. Scram! Li Fan looked at Qiu Shuang and realized that she was in a daze. He could not help but feel uncomfortable in his heart. He vented his anger on the martial emperor, that unlucky bastard. With a set of dragons subduing platform, Li Fan continuously waved his legs and firmly kicked the martial emperor. Bang bang bang. The martial emperor was kicked until he retreated step by step. An exalted immortal was actually beaten to the point that he didn't even have the strength to retaliate. The second prince and the first prince were both dumbfounded. Fuck, no wonder he was the one who killed the #1 expert of the imperial family. This fellow almost has the strength of a heaven immortal. In the end, the martial emperor was kicked in the chest by Li Fan. His entire body slid out and crashed into the wall with a thud. Although he didn't suffer any serious injuries, his face was flushed red, and he was extremely ashamed. He was a super expert nurtured by the Council of Elders. He had been cultivating in the tomb for so long, but he still couldn't beat Li Fan. Damn, how the hell did Li Fan train? Liao Ju, what are you doing? I'm just testing his combat strength. Don't worry, second prince. As the martial emperor spoke, he pulled his body out from the wall. He immediately put on the Beast King armor and roared at the same time. 2 arms slowly grew out from his back. This bro has also trained to the level of 4 arms. Without waiting for Li Fan to come to a conclusion, the martial monarch grew another 2 arms. 6 arms? Brother, you're awesome. Emperor's palm. The martial emperor took out his newly learned martial arts, and his body expanded to a height of more than 6 meters, close to 7 meters. At the same time, the 6 arms shot out Palm Prince, and Palm Prince filled the sky, smashing towards Li Fan's head and face. Li Fan extended his hand and grabbed the scarlet spear. He held it in his hand and continued to stab, piercing through all the Palm Prince that were flying towards him. The martial monarch was like a human-shaped cannon. His attacks became more and more frequent, and more powerful. Very quickly, the power of the Palm Prince exploded to the point that Li Fan couldn't even hold his spear steadily. Do you think the emperor's palm is easy to break? The martial monarch's voice was filled with arrogance. The Palm Prince will only become stronger and stronger, until they destroy you. Li Fan stood there, waved his hand, and threw out the great spear in his hand. The red lightning quickly arrived in front of the martial monarch and was caught by the martial monarch with 3 hands. At the same time, Li Fan had already arrived in front of the martial monarch. At the same time, he sent a kick towards the martial monarch's head. Li Fan's kick was extremely fast, but the martial monarch's reaction was also very strong. He immediately waved his hand and grabbed Li Fan's ankle. However, Li Fan's body turned in the air, and his other leg brought up a gust of wind. He actually lifted the martial monarch's body and kicked him out once again. The martial monarch slid back 2 meters, but his 6 arms simultaneously threw out large palm prints, all of them swinging towards Li Fan. Li Fan stood at his original position and continuously thrusted his legs, instantly breaking all 6 palm prints. The martial monarch was a little vexed. Li Fan was actually this strong. He didn't even seem to have used the heavenly thunder transformation before. In such a short period of time, what kind of opportunity did this kid have? Looking at the martial arts he used, it should have already surpassed the scope of martial arts. It didn't seem like it was a true immortal art. Damn it, he had to go through so much trouble to obtain the true immortal art, this godly mental cultivation method. But why was Li Fan able to suppress him time and time again? What virtue did he have to do to deserve it? He was the true son of heaven. I can't accept this. The martial monarch let out an angry roar. The surrounding spiritual energy seemed to have encountered a black hole as it quickly gathered towards the martial monarch's body. The ceiling above his head was completely shattered. The martial monarch's body slowly expanded in the rubble, quickly turning into a giant that was close to 9 meters tall. Infinitely close to a celestial immortal. The first prince's heart trembled. The elders' council had actually nurtured such an expert from Earth? Good, good, good. Quickly go and kill that Li Fan. The stronger the martial monarch, the happier the second prince was. He waved his fan excitedly and ordered the martial monarch to make his move. Great hand seal of annihilation. The martial monarch was high up in the sky as he slammed his palm down towards Li Fan. The 6 palms joined together and a huge black palm print with a diameter of 10 meters descended from the sky. Li Fan used both of his arms to block the top of his head and forcibly received the palm print. With a rumbling sound, Li Fan's body sank as he was smashed to the ground by the palm print. You are only so. As the martial monarch spoke, he once again sent out 6 blood-red palm prints towards Li Fan. Boom boom boom. One after another, the palm prints continued to smash into the ground. Ha ha ha, how can you fight against me? Go to hell. The martial monarch's continuous attacks could not be stopped at all. Each wave of attacks was faster than the last. Turn into minced meat for me. Boom boom boom. The sound of explosions rang out incessantly as smoke and dust rose into the sky. Goodbye. The martial monarch's 6 hands once again gathered all of his power and released a black palm print. But just at this time, Li Fan, who had been lying in the pit all this time, suddenly stood up, silver-white lightning rolling around his body. At the same time, Li Fan flipped over and kicked the martial monarch's chin. Boom! The martial monarch's huge body was kicked high into the air. And Li Fan instantly shot into the air, his body spun, and with a heavy chop, his right foot was like a battle axe, once again ruthlessly smashing into the martial monarch's body. Pa! The martial monarch's 2 arms were directly chopped off by Li Fan. His body heavily smashed onto the ground, causing dust to fly up. Li Fan grabbed the scarlet great spear in the air, and the vermilion bird's power quickly poured into the spear tip. It was as if a pair of red wings had grown out of Li Fan's back, his speed increased by a bit. A spear descended from the sky and pierced into the martial monarch's chest, deeply embedded into the ground. A huge vermilion bird soared into the sky. Li Fan had shrunk the range of the vermilion bird great spear, but the damage had increased by who knows how many times. Chapter 1753. Bang! The earth shook. Everyone felt their mouths go dry as they watched the vermilion bird soar into the sky. It was a little scary. The martial emperor's entire body was charred black as he lay on the ground, motionless. Obviously, he had been completely beaten down by Li Fan. He couldn't figure out why he was still defeated by Li Fan even though he had already cultivated to this level. At this moment, Li Fan was standing on the ground with his scarlet spear in hand. White smoke was still coming out of his body, and the armor on his body was somewhat broken. His scarlet cloak was also tattered, but his entire person was like a demon god, extremely terrifying. How dare a mere human cause trouble? Just as the second prince and the eldest prince were at their wits' end, 8 figures suddenly appeared in the sky. Then, the 8 elders descended from the sky. Each of them was more than 10 meters tall, and they surrounded Li Fan. Kneel. Elder Ren pointed at Li Fan and scolded. A mountain suddenly appeared out of nowhere, and with a rumble, it pressed down on Li Fan. Heavenly Thunder Transformation 3rd Tier. With a rumble, the 100-meter-tall mountain shattered. Li Fan's 3-meter-tall body withstood the white lightning. He stood there, white smoke coming out of his mouth. The faces of the elders changed. This kid could actually resist their power. Li Fan's body emitted white smoke and lightning. He looked straight at the elders in front of him. Now was not the time. If only it was a month later. He could then let the clone in the Yao Ceiling Pagoda come out and be his fighter. There would definitely be a battle between him and the few elders, but now was not the time. The current Li Fan, when he activated the Heavenly Thunder Transformation 3rd Tier, could barely match the strength of a Sky Immortal. But he could deal with 1, but against 8, that might not be the case. Moreover, the Realm Lord and the Twin Lion Kings had said that these people were immortal in the heavens beyond heaven. It was impossible to kill them. But he could not die here. If he died, Earth would have no chance. Therefore, Li Fan did not hesitate. After entering the triple transformation, he instantly appeared in front of an elder. Li Fan swept his leg towards his head, preparing to deal with this elder in one move. Li Fan's speed was indeed very fast, especially the Twin Lion King's strength attribute, which was slightly inclined towards space. As Li Fan moved quickly, space itself seemed to be torn apart. Beheading the third prince. Li Fan swept his leg across the elder's thick and long neck, and his head flew off. However, the other elders were not surprised, because this person's head quickly grew back. Your strength is not bad. Elder Ren stood at the side and looked at Li Fan. He chuckled and said, however, in this heavens beyond Avalon, we are invincible. If you want to fight against us, you're still too weak. As he spoke, Elder Ren pointed a finger at Li Fan and pressed it against the ground. Bang! Li Fan felt his body sink, and then suddenly smashed into the ground. He raised his head and saw that the 8 elders around him had already transformed into a 100-meter-tall figure. Their strength was practically invincible. Pa pa pa. One after another, soul-subduing nails suddenly flew out. Clang, 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 they shot towards Li Fan's limbs. Each soul-subduing nail was connected to 12 chains, firmly locking Li Fan, making him unable to break free. Truly foolish, actually trying to fight against us in the heavens beyond heaven. Elder Li couldn't help but mock Li Fan, even if it's the realm lord of another world, didn't he also obediently admit defeat? Humans are always so foolish, but very soon, they will no longer exist. Lock this person tightly in the demon-subduing pagoda? No, he's too close to the realm lord. Let's deal with him on the spot. Let his body and soul be destroyed. The few elders had already begun discussing Li Fan's fate. At this moment, Qiu Shuang was standing beside Li Fan, using her slender arms to block the few elders' gazes. Everyone, please let him go. Qiu Shuang, are you crazy? Elder Ren looked at Qiu Shuang calmly. He is an earthling, he is not worthy of your protection. But he is my husband. Qiu Shuang appeared very calm at this moment. She knew that if she broke down, her husband would be finished. So foolish. The second prince sneered, you really look like father. Perhaps. Qiu Shuang looked straight at her elder brother, I may be foolish, but at least I will not harm my own brother. Second prince was speechless and did not speak for a long time. This person has to die. He will be a scourge if we let him live. Kill. The elders shouted one after another. If you want to protect him, that's fine too. Elder Ren suddenly spoke, interrupting the other elders' conversation. Elder Ren, are you crazy? What are you thinking in your head? Before they finished speaking, Elder Ren waved his hand and interrupted, but, Qiu Shuang, if you choose to protect him, you have to give up your identity as the Empress. Abdicate, then you can take him away. The other elders did not object. Elder Li also nodded and said, let these soul-suppressing nails stay on him and he will become a useless person. In this case, banishing him to the barren land is also fine. Well, this is fine. These elders actually compromised. After all, the Empress took the initiative to abdicate. This was the best choice. If the Empress disappeared or died suddenly, the people and feudal lords of the realm beyond heaven would definitely be suspicious. The suspicion of the eldest prince and the second prince would be even higher. This kind of regicide was a big crime. Perhaps, it would cause another turmoil in the realm beyond heaven. But if the Empress took the initiative to abdicate, it would be much better. The eldest prince and the second prince would have a chance to compete again. Before the next hibernation day, they could successfully ascend the throne, then order to postpone hibernation and march into the human world. That's right, this was the best opportunity. I agree. I also agree. The two princes looked at each other and saw a kind of tacit understanding from each other's eyes that they had not seen for a long time. I am willing. Qiu Shuang chose this path without hesitation. I want a promise from you. Qiu Shuang looked at everyone present coldly. If I give up the throne, can you really let him go? Of course. Elder Ren nodded, I can make a promise to you. Aren't you afraid that we will have descendants? Qiu Shuang's thoughts were still clear. Once our descendants want to destroy the realm beyond heaven, what will you do? Oh, the prophecy you mentioned. The second prince smiled and took 2 steps forward. As your elder brother, I can tell you clearly that this prophecy was fabricated by the Council of Elders. It was used as a reason to expel humans and attack them. That so-called savior of human beings does not exist at all. Hearing this, the light in Li Fan's eyes dimmed a lot. Chapter 1754. In that case, are you willing to guarantee our safety? Qiu Shuang confirmed again. Yes, as long as you abdicate, everything else can be discussed. The abdication of the Empress was enough to exchange for the life of Li Fan, a mere human from Earth. Anyway, he had been hit by the soul-suppressing nail. In sky beyond heaven, no one could pull out this soul-suppressing nail except for the few elders. From now on, you and him can go to the barren land. Whether you live or die will depend on your luck. Elder Ren expelled Qiu Shuang on the spot. The Empress had only been on the throne for more than 3 months, and now she announced her abdication. The throne of sky beyond heaven was temporarily vacant again. During this period of time, the two princes would probably start to fight for the throne again. Not only did she abdicate, but because Qiu Shuang stayed with an earthling, even her true immortal power was taken away. Now, Qiu Shuang was no different from an ordinary girl from Earth. But she didn't have any complaints. After handing over everything, Qiu Shuang changed into a simple dress. She used a rope to pull a small cart, and Li Fan was lying on the small cart. Li Fan was hit by the soul-suppressing nail. These nails hid the chain and also locked Li Fan's mobility. If Qiu Shuang was an ordinary woman, then Li Fan would be a useless person. Li Fan didn't say a word for 2 days. He seemed to be in despair. Qiu Shuang knew that with Li Fan's pride, such a blow was worse than death for him. Now that he was lying here, even if he was still alive, his soul should be dead. Husband, don't worry. I will definitely save you. Qiu Shuang pulled the small cart step by step, lonely and strong on the journey to the barren land. Or rather, they were lonely. There were also a few guards following them. But these guards just followed them from a distance, monitoring them. As exiles, the barren land was the only place Qiu Shuang and Li Fan could go. That place was desolate and deserted, and there was only desert within 1,000 miles. There were only a few oases and some people who had been expelled. They struggled at death's door and quietly lived on, earning a small amount of immortal crystals to barely survive. TSK, is this the former empress? Who can recognize her now? This is nothing. Look at that Li Fan, the famous #1 expert of the imperial family, isn't he lying there like a dead dog now? Yeah, it's really ugly. The guards were standing very far away. It seemed that it was very boring to walk such a long distance, so it was inevitable that they could not help but discuss along the way. The wind mercilessly sent these voices into Qiu Shuang's ears. The former queen bit her lips tightly. She did not say anything and continued to drag Li Fan's wooden plank with all her might. After all, she was just an ordinary girl. Very quickly, Qiu Shuang's forehead was filled with sweat. However, she did not give up. She continued to drag the heavy wooden plank and hurried towards the wildlands. The distance between the imperial capital and the wildlands was at least 10 days. If they rode a horse, it would only take 2 days. However, Qiu Shuang's body was weak. She walked for more than half a month before reaching the wildlands. The current Qiu Shuang no longer looked like an empress. Her clothes were tattered, but her snow-white face was still very clean. No matter what she had become, she was still a beauty. A few guards looked at her from the side and could not help but feel envious. It would be great if this abject empress could dual cultivate with her. However, they only thought about it and did not dare to do it. It was not that Qiu Shuang's identity was very noble, but that her identity was too lowly. As an exiled person, she was like a virus. Not to mention having a relationship, even if they just said a few words, they would be treated as an accomplice. The few guards could only send them here. They did not want to enter a place like the wildlands. They watched as the former empress, who had a different kind of charm, dragged her husband, Li Fan, step by step into the savage desert with a pair of white legs that were exposed from her pants. They had just entered when a huge storm arose in the wildlands. Yellow sand filled the sky and engulfed them. What a pity. A guard sighed, a white and clean little girl. What a waste. Forget it. Let's not think about the exiled person. Let's go, let's return to the imperial capital and report. The guards returned the way they came. The wildlands was like a land of plague. At this moment, Qiu Shuang was dragging the small wooden plank and stepping on the scalding sand and stones. She endured her hunger and thirst as she searched for the oasis that existed here. In the wildlands, the oasis was the only place that had life. However, it was hard to say if she could find it before the two of them survived. Husband, don't worry. I will definitely save you. Qiu Shuang was almost exhausted from walking, but when she turned back to look at Li Fan who was lying on the wooden plank, she strengthened her faith. However, the desert was too big, and there was no way to find the direction in this desert. Qiu Shuang's lips were starting to crack. She stopped and realized that Li Fan's mouth was also extremely dry. His eyes were black and sunken in. Husband is so dehydrated, Qiu Shuang panicked. She looked around, but there was not even a cactus in this desert. Other than the oasis, there were no other living things. It's okay, husband. Water will be here soon. Qiu Shuang stretched out her palm and used her soft teeth to bite her palm. Blood flowed out. Qiu Shuang endured the pain and quickly placed her hand beside Li Fan's mouth. The blood flowed into Li Fan's mouth, and he almost subconsciously swallowed it. Seeing Li Fan's throat moving, Qiu Shuang seemed to forget the pain and smiled happily like a child. Husband, drink more. There's still a lot. Qiu Shuang tore a piece of her clothes and wrapped it around her injured palm. She continued to pull the wooden plank that was getting heavier and continued on her journey. After walking for a long time, night fell. The desert was hot in the day, but at night, it was extremely cold. Qiu Shuang couldn't continue on such a cold day. She dug a hole in the sand and hugged Li Fan to lie in it. In this cold place, she hugged Li Fan tightly, letting her husband feel the warmth of her body. It's okay, husband. As long as you live on, I will find a way to cure you. You must live on with hope. The night was tough, but Qiu Shuang still smiled happily as she hugged her husband. In the morning, Qiu Shuang forced herself to stay awake and climbed out of the hole. She continued on her journey to find the oasis.